Welcome everyone. Today is Monday, May 15th, 2023, and this is a regular meeting of the City of Asbury Park Planning Board. Chairwoman Kurzak, can you please call the meeting to order?
Yes, this meeting is being held in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the Coaster and Asbury Park Press by publication of the annual meeting notice and posted on the Municipal Bulletin Board and municipal website. All notices are on file with the Board Secretary. Official action may be taken on the following matters before the Board. Fire exits are located on the east and west sides of the Council chambers, as well as the backs of the building. I will ask anybody with cell phone or other device to kindly silence your device for the duration of the meeting. This meeting is being recorded by APTV, so we can watch it anytime we like. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will now take roll call. James Bonanno.
Here.
Councilwoman Clayton.
Here.
Eric Gallipo.
Here.
Jim Henry is absent today. Mayor Moore.
Here.
Daniel Shenameo is absent today. Jennifer Souter. Here. Michael Goonan.
Here.
And Chairwoman Barbara Kurzak.
Here. All right, the application that we have before us is Somerset Asbury Park Renewal LLC.
And Barbara, I have to recuse myself from this one.
Okay, we have one recusal,
Even less time to do that.
but you won't be far away.
So we have 6 out of 9.
All right, 6 out of 9. Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Michael Bruno, law firm of Giordano, Haller, and Cecil. Is it okay if I sit down?
Absolutely. As long as you just bring the mic down and you're good to go.
Well, we're excited to be here this evening on behalf of Somerset Asbury Park Urban Renewal, which is a subsidiary of inspired by Somerset. This is an application for preliminary and final site plan approval for the property known as lots 1, 3, and 4 in block 4105, commonly referred to as 115 4th Avenue, 1209 Ocean Avenue, and 150 5th Avenue. It's approximately 1.85 acres, and it's on Ocean Avenue adjacent to the south side of the Wonder Bar. The application proposes new construction of 155 residential condo unit building with 9,390 square feet of commercial area for retail and restaurants, 270 internal parking spaces, and various site amenities. The plan includes the keeping of the Wonder Bar in its current location with a slight expansion of the lot area for the Wonder Bar. In addition to the site plan application, we have a minor subdivision application before you to adjust the lot lines. The goal is to reconfigure lots 1, 3, and 4 into one new lot and to include some area of lot 3 into lot 2, which is the Wonder Bar lot. And we'll describe that in more detail as we move forward. We have a number of witnesses with us this evening. I'd like to present Ralph Zucker first. He's the principal of the applicant. Then we'll get into the architectural, show you some great exhibits of what the building's going to look like with Dave Minnow and Michael Lawson. Then we'll have Tom Bauer talk about the amenity program and some of the other public type improvements. And we'll finish up with the technical engineering site plan testimony of our engineer. So if I could at this time, I'd like to bring Ralph Zucker up and introduce him and have him sworn.
One moment. Madam Chairwoman, I've reviewed the notices. Based on what I've seen and the notices that were supplied, they're adequate, and we have jurisdiction to proceed.
Okay.
Thank you. So before we introduce Ralph, I'm just going to hand the exhibits that we'll be referring to. I think we're going to refer to them in this order. So this marking should be good, but if we don't, we'll jump around and remark.
Why don't you give them to either the chairwoman or the board secretary? Because they need them more than me,
Okay.
especially Marie. Thanks, Marie.
So Ralph, could you introduce yourself and your affiliation with this applicant?
Want me to swear him in?
Please.
Okay. Sir, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Ralph Stucker. I'm the president of Somerset Development, now known as Inspired by Somerset Development. We're known around these parts for primarily what we've done over at the old Bell Labs, turned into Bell Works. We're very proud of that. And I think that informs a lot of what we're going to present here tonight. We at Inspired, we take a human-centric approach. We're very, very focused on creating what we say is great spaces for great people. And we've taken our time, and what we're going to present to you tonight is very, very much a human-scale development. There are many challenges. The preservation of the Wonder Bar was very much foremost in our mind. Engaging with the streets around us, you'll see homes that open up to the street. We didn't just wall off the street from all four sides. We're engaged with the pedestrian environment from all four sides. The architects took a lot of care at the street level to bring materials that are familiar to Asbury Park, to again engage in the local vernacular. And yet, this is when a building, our neighbor next door, the Asbury Ocean Club, starts becoming a neighborhood. So we've taken some design cues from there. We've taken design from existing, I'll let the architects talk about that. And we really, really are proud of what we're presenting tonight. It's designed to be a 4-season, year-round space, not just a place for people to come and spend the summer. We've gone to great lengths to create spaces in the amenity spaces that engage everybody year-round and are available year-round. We want somebody sitting in their condo in New York City maybe say, well, it's going to be a snowstorm, right? I'm going to head out to Asbury Park and stay there. Or more importantly, live there year-round. We know that's important. It's important to us as well. You'll see all around the building, if you could show that, Michael, we have stoops on 3 of the 4 sides. The front is along Ocean Avenue, is retail, but on the residential side, rather than wall off the street and hide an interior building, we've actually engaged the street with residences, apartments that face the streets on 3 sides of the building. Very important. So you'll walk by, and rather than seeing a blank wall, you will see people sitting. I mean, I can't promise the people, but I can promise the front porch. You'll see people sitting out there and being engaged. As always, every good design, great design, requires some accommodations. We think what we're here tonight for is very minimal. We'll leave that up for you to judge. But great design doesn't always follow a pattern. There are things that evolve over years. Asbury Park has changed over years, and we've done our very best to bring you something that we feel you can embrace and will be a great boon to the community. So thank you very much for having us, and we're here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ralph. Questions, or should we present the building through our architect?
Is that the end of your testimony?
Yes.
Okay. Does the planning board have any questions of the witness? Do our professionals have any questions for the witness?
No.
Does the public have any questions for the witness? Okay, let's move on.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to next call Dave Minow, have him introduced and sworn, as well as Michael Lawson, his associate.
David Minow, you were here on a project at the very beginning of the oceanfront redevelopment.
I was.
Okay.
Good memory.
David, please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear testimony about giving this matter the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Please state your name for the record and spell it.
My name is David J. Minnow, M-I-N-N-O.
Thank you.
Dave, could you give the board the benefit of your expertise and educational background?
Sure. My educational background is I have a Master of Architecture from the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. I'm a principal and founding principal of Minnow and Wasco. We've been in business for about 28 years, and we are slightly over 100 people. We have offices in Lambertville and Newark, New Jersey. And I've testified before this board and hundreds of other boards in the state over the last 37, 38 years. And I've been qualified as a architect for testimony. And my license is current.
I'd like
Thank
to
you.
offer, him an expert in architecture.
Thank you.
And as part of, before we get into this project that you've created with Somerset, could you share with the board some of the undertakings that you took in terms of understanding the surrounding area and the redevelopment plan and the
Sure.
vision of the community?
Absolutely. Yeah, I've been around this community for a long time. I have a house in Ocean Grove, and I know the area very well. My daughter lives in Asbury Park. And we have spent a great deal of time reviewing the waterfront redevelopment plan. It's a very detailed document. It has some age to it, it has a little dust on it, created probably in 2002, most of the current language that's there. And, you know, we have some issues related to that, but it's a good document, a good planning document, and one that really lays out for Asbury Park a pattern for development in the waterfront redevelopment area. We also spent a great deal of time looking at the existing structures in the immediate area, in particular the area in the few blocks along the ocean front. So our first exhibit shows our site, which is located between 4th and 5th Avenues, Ocean Avenue, and Kingsley Street.
And let's get this marked. I think this is, we're a little bit out of order here. So I think this is, what are we calling this? Conceptual plans A1.
Thank you, Dave.
Yes.
That's your first document, sure.
So I'm sure you all are very familiar with the immediate area, but for those who aren't, directly to our south is the Ocean Club, and directly to our east is the Fifth Avenue Pavilion, which is located right on the beach between the boardwalk and Ocean Avenue. Convention Hall a little bit north of that. Bradley Park just north of that, and that will always be a park. And the Berkeley Carteret Hotel just north of the park. And then the Beachfront North condominium building north of that. Directly to our west is the Asbury Hotel. And many of the sites that remain open as open parking or open lots are in the waterfront redevelopment plan. So our address is 1209 Ocean Avenue, block 4105, lots 1, 3, and 4. And our plan is really to embrace and protect the Wonder Bar. This has been sort of our passion from the very beginning. Even though the redevelopment plan is sort of written, and I think your planner mentions this, written to describe these blocks as single design blocks. But when you have an important structure to the community like the Wonder Bar and the Yappy Bar right next to it, directly to the south, it's important to see how we can embrace that and include that. If you look at some of the images up there on the upper left-hand corner is the Fifth Avenue Pavilion, which has a contemporary modern look to it, and the newer part of it, to the right-hand part of that, is very contemporary. The Iron Whale down below, and the stadium seating in that area up top.
And for the record, this is the concept images that will mark as Exhibit 2.
And then the middle top is obviously a nighttime festival photograph along the ocean front. The Wonder Bar with its famous image of Tilly, just looking to the south there. And then the Asbury Ocean Club is on the lower left. This is a 16-story building, and this is directly adjacent to us, separated by the 4th Avenue parking area. And then to our west is the Asbury Hotel. And this too has, even though it's a brick building, it has many contemporary elements that are part of it.
And Dave, just as we move forward here, these exhibits that you're referring to were prepared under your direction in your office, correct?
They were.
Okay, thank you.
So While we have this image up there, maybe I'll run through some of the facts about the building. We're presenting 155 residential units, 41 of which, or 26.5%, are one bedroom. We have 69 two-bedroom units and 45 three-bedroom units. We have retail space located along our frontage on Ocean Avenue for a total of 9,390 square feet. The building has internal parking, which we think is a tremendous benefit. There's a lot of parking needed to support a project like this, and it's basically invisible to the general public. And that's a good thing about the waterfront redevelopment plan. They contemplate these embedded parking decks to really clean up the sites and not be seen as a town of parking lots. So we have 270 parking spaces shown, and we'll talk about that. There may be some minor adjustments to that, and 232 of those are required for the residential, and we have another 10 spaces that we've dedicated to the Wonder Bar employees. So rather than have the employees of the Wonder Bar parking on the streets and taking other available spaces, we've got 10 reserved spaces in the building. As Ralph Zucker mentioned, a guiding principle for our design team and the client has been to activate the street. And we've done this. We have activated all four sides of the building. And I think we've actually done that to the improvement of the waterfront development plan, in the sense that some of the current projects have their parking brought all the way to the edge of the building, which leaves sort of blank walls along the street edge. So we're concerned even about the people who live to the west of this site, who would be walking toward the beach or wherever they were going, west to east. And we want to make that a pleasant experience. We want those spaces to be activated. So as you can see in this view, as you look along 4th Avenue, even on the ground floor, we have these townhome units with front porches and front doors right on the street. You know, and there was a book written a long time ago that I read back when I was in college called a woman named Jane Jacobs. And her whole theory is front porches are great and you want eyes on the street. And we think that that's important, not just for security, but to really make it a good pedestrian experience. Here's a little bit closer view that shows the view looking along 4th Avenue and Ocean Avenue.
So let's mark these in, because we jumped a little bit out of order. So go back to Mike, so we can get the order right. So this is the number 1 on my list, but this will be marked as Exhibit 3, right? And then the one that followed is number 2 on my list, but this will be Exhibit 4. And I think we're up to Exhibit 5 on my list in order now, so we should be able to track the list I gave you going forward, I think.
So there's a couple other things about this elevation that I want to mention. As you look along the frontage, and you'll see it in plan as well, but we've angled the front of our building back from Ocean Avenue just slightly there to open up the visibility of the sign, of the Tilly sign, for those pedestrians who are walking from south to north, to be able to see that more clearly. And there we have potential cafe dining. We're not sure of the retail uses, whether they're going to be restaurant or other uses, but we've got a wide sidewalk there that can be used for cafe dining, if that's the tenants that we attract. The other thing, I've been mentioning the whole streetscape, in particular around the first floor of the building. We have very discreet service entry and parking entry to the building off of Kingsley. So we've got a very clean streetscape around the entire building. You can see our building steps. The tallest portion to the west is 8 stories with a mezzanine. And then the front portion of the building, the middle portion of the building right there where Michael's circling, that's where our spa is located. That's 4 stories. And then on the front portion, we're 3 stories. The first floor of the building is a high floor. It's 22 to 25 feet. And that's permitted in the waterfront redevelopment plan as a story. let's move on, and I'll try to walk you through the building. And I'll try to do this relatively quickly, but we're very proud of the building.
And this is the ground floor plan, correct?
This is the ground floor.
So this is what we have listed as item 8.
That's correct. So our ground floor, we took a lot of pains to really think about the people who were going to live here and how they were going to use the building and how the general public was going to perceive the building. And again, starting from the Ocean Avenue side on the right-hand portion, you can see where our building steps back, our retail steps back to show the Tilly sign. Maybe, Michael, you can point that angled step back location there, and the widened sidewalk for cafe dining. As you move on the 4th Avenue side, on the south edge of the building, our main entrance, one of the 2 main residential entries, is in that purple area, which is our lobby area on the south side of the building. This is where people would be coming into the building. This is where deliveries of packages would take place. And directly behind the front lobby desk, we have a package storage room, and we have a mail room that's a little further back in the plant. Packages are a big deal these days, and we've planned for that in the building. The purple area that moves through the building is our general main sort of circulation through the building. And the purple portion that enters from Ocean Avenue, we're calling Beach Alley. And this beach alleyway is something we think is going to set this apart from other condominium projects. We wanted to make it convenient for our residents to go to the beach and come back from the beach. And what that means is that this is an informal internal lane which gives access to not only restrooms, but to storage areas. There are 3 dedicated storage areas in the ground floor of the building where people can store beach chairs, umbrellas, bicycles, and the like, and they can get them right out on the first floor. They're not dragging their sandy stuff up the elevator to the unit. We even have showers located on that ground floor in the restroom area so people can wash off before they come into the main portion of the building. At that center connection in the center of the purple corridors is a lounge area. And there's also a bike storage area right behind the retail space. And I think your planner asked for the number of bikes we could store there. We can store 55 bikes in that location. And we also, people have those individual storage bins if they had a second bike or wanted to store one there. We also, behind that main lounge area, we have a gaming area, a sports game facility. It could be a golf simulator. We're not quite sure yet. And I mentioned the mail area. And then as you proceed to the north corridor, we come to our 5th Avenue lobby. This is a secondary lobby to make it convenient for people who live in the north tower to enter the building as pedestrians from 5th Avenue. And this also has an extensive lounge. We have some actual co-working areas in there for residents of the building. Sometimes we find people who are post-COVID working at home several days a week, like an area outside of their unit where they can do Zoom meetings and have private phone conversations and generally work out of the residential environment. And this connects right up into our residential corridor and elevator bays leading to the north tower. Moving to the Kingsley side of the building, you can see we have units fronting right on Kingsley. And we have not only units that are on the ground floor, but we have entryways to stairways to some 2-story units that sit on the 2nd and 3rd level. We'll show you that in cross-section so you can understand that a little better. We have 2 vehicular entries. The one on the southern side of Kingsley is our main service entry. And this is intended for move-ins. People can have their furniture delivered inside the building, and we have a service elevator that takes that directly up to the corridors. And there's room in that area to turn a small truck around. We also have in the ground floor of the building, we have two main trash collection areas. And on each floor, each tower has a trash chute which takes the trash down to a compactor and is located in these two trash rooms. That trash can be brought into that receiving area and picked up by our private trash hauler. We also store recyclables there. But building maintenance, up on each floor where the trash chute is located, we have areas for recycling bins in those closets. So building management periodically brings those bins down the elevators to the trash storage rooms until pickup time for the recyclables. And I think your planner asked a question about can we store 4 weeks worth of recyclables. I'm not sure why we would do that, but we have the ability to do that. Both of those areas are very large for trash storage.
And that trash will be handled privately through private haulers?
Private hauler, both trash and recycling. So, again, I want to just point out along 5th and 4th, the front porches along those areas. If you look along, Michael's pointing to each side there, we have a little stoop going up to a porch level and then an entry directly, a front door directly into the living room area of these units. And we think that this is part of the activation of the street. To have people coming and going from that area. They also can reach their unit from the internal corridor that gets them to their car, which is parked on one of the parking levels. So they have two means of access, either through the corridor or through their front door. Okay, I think we can move on to the next one.
First floor level.
Yes, this is the
A9.
Right. So what we're showing here is the first level of the two-story units that I mentioned. So if you look around the edges of the white units that were shown before, those are 2 stories in height because we have that high first floor. But on the second level, which is our first residential level here that we're calling out, that also is a 2-story level. And again, I'll make that clearer when we get to the cross sections.
Well, would you mind just zooming in a little bit so that we can see it a little bit better? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So there is a stairway which comes up from a front door at the street level, which brings people up to enter their unit from the street. They also have a corridor access to that. And then those spaces there that you just looked at are 2 stories tall. So that's a unit with a mezzanine, or a unit with a double height ceiling. It's not a mezzanine. And they too have balconies that face Kingsley Street. What you see there too is our first level of parking. And we have 3 levels of parking, generally with 90 spaces per level. And the ramp is located on the northern side. So people progressively go up and ramp up to the upper levels. While we're on the plans, maybe I'll address this. Your planner shared some concerns about 2 parking spaces on each level, which back out onto the ramp area. And he had a safety concern there. We're actually over-parked, and we are going to agree to relook at that area and remove those spaces to eliminate any parking hazards. So originally I told you we had 270 spaces in the building. If we eliminate 2 per each of those 3 levels, we'll be down to 264 spaces, which is still conforming to our parking requirements. So moving along, so the next level, which is called the second level plan, you see the white areas along Kingsley. That's the 2-story height.
And this is A10, I'm sorry.
A10. Those are the 2-story areas of the units that are located along Kingsley. And again, you see just regular units starting to wrap the plan. And what you see here is units that are also along Ocean Avenue. They sit over the retail space and below our amenity deck. This is the 3rd floor plan.
A11.
A11 that shows the third parking level. And now, on the Kingsley side, we continue with units that wrap continuously around. All the units on this floor are single level units. So now we're at the fourth level plan. This is an exciting floor plan, right here.
A12.
A12. And what you start to see here is the definition of our two towers, one on the north and one on the south. So the building where we have 8 stories and a mezzanine now breaks into those 2 tower levels. And you start to begin to see the tremendous amenity package we have, both outdoor and indoors. And I'd like to take a little time here and talk a little bit about that, the indoor amenities. We have a common living room area that's can you point to this? And we have an area there that really becomes a space that people can reserve for a party. If you want to have 15, 20 friends and your unit isn't large enough to accommodate that for a birthday party, you can reserve that. It's not rented out to the general public, it's for the units. And that has beautiful doors that open onto our pool deck. So this could become an indoor-outdoor space. And one of our charges here by our client was to make this a 4-season resort-type feel. And I'll show you some of the ways that we've done that. We have a spa area in the front of our amenity package, which has not only a typical gym and stretching and yoga area, but we have sauna space, and we have an indoor-outdoor pool. So there are 2 sets of doors, glass doors that open up and provide views toward the ocean. And you can actually get in the pool in the off-season months, year-round. Get in that pool and you can go outside and it'll be heated year-round. So you can utilize that spa pool throughout the year. And that we think is one of the great features about this project. Going a little further back, we have another club room, and we have a private dining area. You see just to the indoor and outdoor dining area. And that has outdoor tables that are next to a common cooking area, a grill area. People are not permitted to have gas grills on their balconies, so we've provided an area where people can reserve a grill and have a barbecue. And then we also have an indoor media room, which is an area where you can get a group of people together and watch the latest movie in that area. And we think that that's going to be pretty popular too. So our main elevator core on the south tower is located right in the sort of the center of the plan there. Those 2 elevators give access all the way up to the 8th floor. And we have our 2 exit stairs that are required off of that floor area. Moving to the north tower, we have our 2 elevators there with our 2 stair towers. And one of the things about the units that face this tremendous grand terrace, I'll call it the green area on the western side of our site, is that each one of those units that face that terrace has their own private terrace located there. And on those terraces, which are on the roof of the garage, we've put little plunge pools there so that it's a very shallow pool that you can sit in, have a cocktail, and enjoy conversation in that area. And we think that that's going to be a real popular item. So those look out on this beautiful landscaped area. Our landscape architect's going to talk more about this. But we have a more informal pathway in that area with seating areas that are located there. Same thing on the south tower for the units that face the internal courtyard. Each one of those 4 units has a private terrace there that face that area. The outside units, meaning on the street frontage, they all have balconies along that edge. And you'll see that in further perspective rendering and on the north side as well. Next slide. So this is the 5th level. Do you want to?
We're 13.
Okay. The unique thing about this 5th level is we've utilized the rooftop of our spa area to create 2 amazing private terraces for those 2 3-bedroom units that face the ocean. So these units will have an outdoor area where they can have a plunge pool in that area, and seating area, and outdoor seating, so that they can entertain on that area, and plenty of lounge seating. I think we're even showing a hammock area on that northern deck. These we think will be very popular and be some of the most popular units in the building. Next slide. So this is typical floors 6 and 7. So this shows the 6th and the 7th floor, which are exactly the same. And it just is the towers coming up with 1-story units on it on each level.
A14.
A14. And let's move to the next one. The 8th floor.
A15.
So the 8th floor plan is unique in that these are the units that have mezzanines in them, meaning they have a small area, small floor area internal to that unit that's reached by an internal stairway. And we vetted with your planner the allowable areas of those mezzanines. But maybe, Michael, you can show, we have a couple of different stairway configurations leading from the living space. I think we have a circular stair in some of the other units. And not only is there a mezzanine, but we have double height space in the living areas to give those an attractive pop.
And Dave, could you just confirm that the redevelopment plan allows the mezzanine on the 8th story, and that's where they're located?
That's where they're located, that's correct. So if you go to the next plan, which I believe will be A16, this is the mezzanine level. And it's a little complicated to understand this, but the lighter tan area labeled mezzanine is the actual floor area. So there's a small little den or overlook library that overlooks the living space down below. The stairway, internal stairway comes up. We generally have a powder room up there and a little mezzanine loft area. From that area, you can come out to the roof that sits over that 8th level, and we have small patios located at that area. What these mezzanines also do is that they screen our rooftop mechanical equipment, which is on the 8th level roof. Our mechanical equipment is not on the roof of these mezzanines. It's on this level in the center of the plan. So we have our condensing units located in the center. The walls in those mezzanine spaces are generally blank to that center area, so you're not looking at a bunch of mechanical equipment. And we feel like it's a rather good way to hide those. It's also in the center of the building, so none of it's visible from a pedestrian or a driver walking by or somebody on the beach. That mechanical equipment will all be screened in that location.
And Dave, can you confirm that it's compliant with the number of stories and the height, maximum height that was agreed to with the city at 130 feet?
It is, yeah. And we can show that again in the cross-section of the building. But yes, our building is compliant. We had a few TRC meetings with some of you present where we talked about the building height, and there was an agreement that we are an 8-story building with a mezzanine. And I think there were subsequent agreements that were made that our height would be capped at 130 feet from the average grade level to the rooftop surface. So, and we meet that requirement. Why don't you just expand the plan a little bit on that 8th level to show that the same thing occurs. Go back on the north, yeah, there. So we have those mezzanines on both sides of the building, both the north wing and the south wing. And it also screens the mechanical equipment on the north side. So moving to the very top level, we have another rooftop deck just for those mezzanine units. And they have seating areas that are available up on those very, very top levels.
And this is Exhibit 17.
This is Exhibit 17. So this would be the top roof level of the building. And you see that we have no mechanical equipment located there. The colored items on those roof decks are actual furniture that are located up there. And we are showing the ability to have a plunge pool there, which is, again, a very low embedded pool in that deck area. So why don't we move on to the next slide? We can come back to any of these if you have questions. But this is the slide which shows, if you look at the upper cross-section, and this is Exhibit A,
18.
18, it shows that we have 8 levels. If you look on the street sides of the building, either the right or the left, we have 1 double height level at the floor, at base floor, then 2 levels up to the deck level, and then we have 5 levels moving up, and then the mezzanine is the very top. So we have 8 levels plus a mezzanine. The parking levels that you're seeing here are embedded in the building. Nobody sees those. They're surrounded entirely by architecture on the outside of the building. But because we're slicing through the building with a knife to create this view, you see the 3 levels of parking with our amenity courtyard on top, and the purple level on the bottom is our lobby area where the beach access is, where all those storage units are, where our mechanical space is, and then we have a little bit of amenity space shown up there on the 4th level. This is a cross-section cut the other direction. So Kingsley Street would be on the left-hand side of this view, and Ocean Avenue would be on the right. And you see on Ocean Avenue, we have our 2-story high retail with 2 levels of units before we get to the amenity deck. You see the embedded 3 levels of parking behind that, and below that our lobby area and our mechanical space. It's totally surrounded. So here's where you see on the Kingsley side, we're totally surrounded by architecture, so you can't see those parking levels. So here it's a little bit different configuration, and I mentioned those 2 double height units on Kingsley. So there's a single height unit on the ground floor, a double height unit in the middle, and then at the 3rd level there is a single height unit. And then again, we have 5 levels of residential with the mezzanine on top. So this too is 8 stories with the mezzanine from the Kingsley side. So you see that continues around the building.
And again, all designed to comply with the 8-story limit and the 130-foot
That's
maximum
correct.
height.
Yeah, the dimension is actually on there, it's hard to see, but we take it to the roof deck level. I think there was a question from your planner about what's the height of our parapet. Typically, we're about 42 inches for that. We're not totally designed in construction drawings, but that's excluded from the height requirement. Next slide. So I want to talk a little bit about our building materials and the.
And what is this, the northwest perspective? Is that what we're looking
We're
at?
looking.
Southeast.
Northwest, yes.
Okay. We're looking northwest.
So this is
No,
19.
this is southeast.
A2 on
It's
your.
okay.
No, we're looking towards,
Towards northwest.
yeah, towards northwest. So we're standing southeast of the building, looking northwest.
So Ocean Avenue is on the right, and you can see Tilly and the Wonder Bar. And then 4th Avenue is on the left-hand side. And here you see the elevated two-level retail space on the ground level with slung canopies over the entryways. As you move over on the 4th Avenue side, we have our main residential entry. That too has a cantilever canopy, which provides cover at the front door. It also gives us a place to do our building name and address at that location. So this is a place where if you were getting dropped off or picked up, this is where it would be. And then you see how the building goes to 5 stories where our amenity space is, and then the 8-story with mezzanine behind
4
that.
stories. 4 stories. 3, then 4, then 8, right?
3, then 4, then 8, I'm sorry. Yeah. Our materiality here is we have really expanded on the modern style, which is mentioned in the waterfront redevelopment plan. And we are in context really with many of the buildings around us, especially the Ocean Club and the 5th Avenue Pavilion. We feel like The board has already seen fit to see that as a permissible style, and we're continuing with that updated look of the modern style. That's characterized by glass and some solid materials and banding and horizontal balconies in the building. The base level of the building, where you see that brown area or light tan area, that's a really beautiful material called equitone, and it's a texture. One of the other renderings will show it even closer and show you more of the texture that we get along that frontage of the building. Next slide. So here we have a view where we're looking from the intersection of Kingsley and 4th, looking east toward the ocean. So this is 4th Avenue on the right-hand side. Kingsley is going off to the left. And what we wanted to show you here were the...
And this is 20, Exhibit 820.
We wanted to show you here the beauty of the first floor units that are 2 levels high, and their front porches. So they're little raised porches that have access through just an outdoor stoop to a front door that lets you directly into that unit. And when I was talking about having eyes on the street, this is where we have that. But we have a little separation from the street with the planter areas to give people a sense of privacy. This is where you see the texture of the equitone material on the first 2 levels there. This is a view looking southwest. You see the Wonder Bar at the corner of 5th and Ocean. You see the Yappy Hour area with the wooden fence located there next to the Wonder Bar. And you see our retail frontage with potential sidewalk dining. And I love this view because it shows not only the activation at the street level, but you see residents activating the street at the 2 residential levels directly above that. And those would be exciting units to be in.
And this is that was Exhibit 821.
Our next view is looking obviously east toward the ocean. And this is a view between the 2 towers of the building. And one of the things we want to show here, it's not an exact view of exactly what people to the west of us would see, but we've tried to preserve the view corridor from the Asbury Hotel directly through. And some of you might remember we showed a diagram at the TRC meeting where we showed the actual windows in the Asbury Hotel and how they focus through this view corridor to the ocean.
And this is Exhibit 822, I'm sorry.
So in the foreground, you see our grand green terrace in the frontage, and then you see our main pool area in the back. The spa would be to the right of this picture over in that area. And you see some of the shade structures, and I'm going to let our landscape architect talk a little bit about that. But it's really, what you see here is how the building opens up on the north side tower to the north to make sure that this view is expansive through there. It's not all the way through a narrow view from Kingsley through. It opens toward the ocean side. This is a view, what exhibit are we on?
We're up to 823.
823 is a view looking from the northeast into our amenity deck. And this shows the spa area coming out of the spa itself, how the spa pool tucks right into the glass area in the building so that it can be used year-round. This is a summer view where that glass has been opened, so the pool is going right in. We have some cabana areas shown on the south edge of the pool area. And then you see these chairs here on the north side are oriented more toward the main pool deck. But that whole spa, gym area, clubroom area will be a glass pavilion. On top of that, where you see the hedgerow are those private terraces off of the 4th floor units. This view is just taken from the end of our main swimming pool looking out to the ocean.
And that's 824.
And we're showing what a spectacular space this will be. And this last view, I think, captures a lot. I mean, it captures our place in Asbury Park. But our place has become a great place. And it's great because, as we mentioned before, the building is activated. It does have a real great sense of street presence. And it recognizes and envelops and loves that Wonder Bar as an icon to the city of Asbury Park. And then opening right down to the area where you would go into the Paramount Theater, that plaza in front. Obviously, you have the potential event space in Bradley Park and the existing parking there along Fifth Avenue.
And that's 825.
Yeah, and I wanted to mention one thing architecturally here, because this rendering does speak to it. There's a requirement in the architectural guidelines about these buildings, which generally were conceived of as having a lot of historic precedent in the writing of the redevelopment plan. And one of the things they mentioned is buildings need to have a base, a middle, and a top. As you can see here, we have a base, which is that first two-story component from the street. And we have a middle level, and then at the eighth floor line, the eighth floor line, we have a break there because we no longer have balconies on the, obviously the mezzanine level. So we remove those balconies, and that top level of pavilions become very specialized and different from the rest of the building. So it's a little bit of a stretch from a traditional view of architecture, base, middle, top. But I think it's still, I can say as an architect, I think that still works in this translated modern style. So, I don't know where we'd like to go from
Yeah,
here.
let me, obviously, your testimony is that you designed the building to be in conformance with the redevelopment plan. Yet we do have some design feature waivers that we are requesting. Could you take a moment and go through those and the rationale as to those requests?
I can. Those of you that have Mr. Sullivan's memo, let's see. You can-
May 12th.
Why don't we put that in? Do you have a copy, Lori? Let's mark that as B1.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
If you start,
Excuse me, David. I want to swear in my planner and my engineer.
Sure.
In case there's any discussion there on the
go
road.
for it.
Gentlemen, please raise your hand. Solemnly swear the testimony about you this evening to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do, yes.
Please state your names for the record, your affiliation with the board.
Michael Sullivan, Clark Caton Hint, School Planner. Jason Fitchner, Board Engineer.
Thank you. Okay.
So if you refer to Mr. Sullivan's memo, I think it's page 12, down at the bottom, it starts in section 3.5, architectural design. I think his last sentence on that, the proposed building design appears to be a modern translation of the modern style and could be construed to be harmonious with some of the other development in the waterfront area. However, does not meet many of the individual design criteria as follows. We agree with that statement, that we do believe we're harmonious, and we do think it's a translation of the modern style. So let's run through these points as quickly as we can. I don't want to be tedious about it, but we do need to have our relief here from these things. So, so the building's balconies are made of metal and glass and are located in the front yards. So the requirement is that decks shall be made of wood and located within the rear yards only.
I'm sorry, can you just tell us where you're reading from specifically?
It's point A on
Oh, 13?
page 13.
We're on 13?
Page 12, below. Yeah, move it on.
13, okay.
So number one, these buildings can't be made of wood because of the construction type. You're not permitted to build a wood building 8 stories in New Jersey, so we automatic sort of relief on that one. And we feel like to not have balconies facing the views is something we would not be interested in building. So we would ask for the waiver here for this requirement. Letter B,
Should we talk about them one at a time, or just going to go all right on?
No, I think that if we have any questions, we should
Did you
have
entertain,
those.
did you entertain other materials for the balcony faces? And like rather than glass balcony edges, something that might even help create more of a sense of that tripartite stack?
I don't think the tripartite thing is really created through the balconies per se. But our goal here was to provide as much view both of the building from the surrounding streets and from the new residents to the views that they would have.
Yeah, my question is about the balconies themselves. So did you look at other materials other than glass for the railings?
We took a cue on this one from the Ocean Club next door, which has glass balconies. So, thank you. The next comment was B, configuration. Balconies shall be visibly supported by brackets and shall not exceed 3 feet in depth. Our balcony design is really in line with the contemporary modern style. It's similar to the Asbury Club. And we have concrete structure here, so we have the advantage of being able to go a little bit deeper with our balconies and provide more usable area for the residents outside. We've seen a call for this post-COVID, that people not only want the balconies for dining and traditional things, sunning, but they want to work on their balcony. So we see outdoor rooms as an extension of this glass walls extending through the balcony. So these become outdoor rooms for these people, expansive space. So we would ask for this waiver.
How deep are the balconies? How deep are the balconies?
How deep are the balconies?
Things vary. They probably vary anywhere from 6 to 12 feet. The next comment, C, is postal numbers shall be placed on the principal building facades and on the alley and rear lane. No numbering is apparent in the plans. We will add numbers to the building as addresses on both the north and south facades and as required on the retail spaces.
Can I also ask, and then this would be to to Jason, is whether or not, I know that we have some issues with street numbering, with numbers on areas. So in this particular situation, you have street-facing townhomes or whatever we want to call them, condos or whatever they are. How will people know that this is your house? That you have to go to number 12 as opposed to just the global, you're on 4th Avenue, 115 4th Avenue. How do you know?
We'd be happy to work with the city on that to address those units.
It would be, my concern is not as much of what I've said, but it's more of the emergency.
Yeah.
How does the fire department, the
Exactly.
EMS know to go to apartment 12?
Right. Generally, in each of the lobbies, we'll have, if the fire company comes to the building, there's what's called an annunciator panel that's visible in the lobby where they can tell if there's a fire event on the 7th floor, unit 16, it identifies that right away. That's one thing, but we'd be happy to be more clear in the exterior identification, in particular of the ground floor unit.
Right, it would be whatever our fire and emergency units
We'll work with them.
need to identify a particular unit, even if it's,
Understood.
right on the first floor or wherever.
So,
We're in agreement.
so just as if that's a condition of approval, which it sounds like it would be,
I
then
think it's
we're gonna
important.
have an approved plan from the city emergency services or whomever that would be submitted prior
As a
to
condition.
the plan signed.
And I don't think that that's an unreasonable request for emergency at all. Okay.
Okay. Item D, openings configuration. Windows shall be single, double, triple hung, or operable casements. Openings shall be rectangular with a vertical or square proportion. Multiple windows in the same rough opening shall be separated by a 4-inch minimum post. The center line of the window sash shall align with the center line of the wall. There should be no flush-mounted windows. Mr. Sullivan's comment is that the design incorporates fixed panes, windows that are flush-mounted, and multiple windows are not separated by a 4-inch post. And again, we would, in this modern translated style, this contemporary facade of a curtain wall kind of building, generally the windows are not operable, though we have very expansive patio doors that do open up to the patios. And sometimes there are 2 of those in each unit. And we would request this waiver. And it's designed in a manner that's consistent with the building to our south. Item E, muntins shall be true divided panes or fixed on the interior and exterior surfaces. Panes shall be similar proportions throughout the building. The design does not utilize windows with true divided lights. That's true, we don't. In this modern style, even in true modern buildings, there were very few muntins used in those buildings. And we would ask for this waiver. F is about the doors. Doors except garage doors shall be side hinged, no sliders. And we use sliding doors. One of the reasons why we do that is that we use a very heavy track door, and with the wind loads that we get, even hurricane loads that we get, we need a very substantial door, and the swing doors, the patio doors, are very difficult to weather strip in that regard. And the sliders are more consistent with the glass wall that we have in the modern style. So we would ask for this waiver. G, the garage doors facing a frontage shall be a minimum of 9 feet wide. Maximum 9 feet wide. There are 2 garage doors, parking garage entrance, which combine for 24 feet in width, and a single garage door loading that is approximately 17 feet wide. We're in agreement that we would put 2 doors in the in and out of the garage, 2 separate 9-foot doors. So we'll meet that requirement. In the larger door for the loading, we need a larger door for the trash truck and the moving van to come in that area. So we would request a waiver for that 16, 17-foot wide door to the service area. Letter H, building frontages. The middle of the building shall be differentiated from the base by a transition line. This is what we talked about just a minute ago with regard to this rendering, where we talked about the base, middle, and the top. I believe that we conceptually meet that, and if the board feels we still need a waiver, we would request that. And I feel like we've interpreted that requirement and met it. Item I, building frontages. Adequate parapet shall mask any negative impact from street level as well as horizontally from adjacent buildings. The design of the building pyramids do not appear to fully screen roof terrace facilities and activities. I believe we're talking about the parapet at the top roof. And as I mentioned, it's approximately 42 inches in height. And that gives both a safety protection from those areas, and I believe it'll screen anything that's up there from the street area. Any of the furniture that may be on those top mezzanine roofs will be below that line, visually from anywhere on the street or the beach.
All right, so you're saying that it will fully screen?
Well, I think that's, you're talking about the top. You're talking about the top mezzanine. You're not talking about the roofs at the 3rd level
No.
or the 4th level, the lower roofs.
That's correct. If we go to the 3rd level roof on the, let's say the Ocean Avenue side, I think you would just, yeah. We do have glass railing shown at that level. I don't know if you can point that out, Michael. Yeah. So we have those sunscreen elements that are projecting out, but we also have the glass railing at that area off of the pool deck. to increase view.
Yeah, I guess the other, it's not just from the street, it's also from the adjacent building, so the Ocean Club,
Mhm.
you know, what they can see actually matters.
Sure.
And that's really the point.
And that's a good point. I mean, the Ocean Club, you know, is 16 stories. We're, 8 stories with a mezzanine. So some of those upper level units, even though that building is approximately 175 feet away from our building, which is a big distance, that Fourth Avenue parking area is really wide. I didn't realize how wide it really is, but it's very wide across there. But from the upper level units, yes, they could look down on those roofs. It would be difficult to screen that with any height parapet. You couldn't get a parapet high enough to screen that.
But if you break down, just with the board's, clarity here, if you break down what this requirement is, it's from negative visual impact. So what, first have to determine that there would be negative visual impacts, and then would they be to the adjacent buildings or to the street? So what's negative about
the only thing that I think could be construed negative is the mechanical equipment, which we've left down on that 8th level, not up at the mezzanine level. And we've screened that with the mezzanines themselves, the little boxes that are on the roof. So, that mechanical equipment, we've made every effort to screen that from any kind of view. So it's not to say that somebody on the 16th floor couldn't see it, but hopefully they're looking over that to the ocean. The next item is J, building parts. The openings on a frontage must remain within a void to solid ratio of no more than 45% with each facade measured independently. So Mr. Sullivan points out that the plans include calculations verifying 64% voids on Ocean Avenue frontage, 63% on the Kingsley Street frontage, 72% on the 4th Avenue, and 73% on the 5th Avenue frontages. So we need relief from this, and it's really caused by the fact that we're creating this modern glass-centered building. I think this standard was written around what would be construed as a traditional building with punched openings in a wall surface. Here, our wall surface generally, not always, but generally is glass. So we've created a glass building. So we do need relief from that. Building parts, let's see. K, building parts. Balconies are best used as a single continuous element at the location of the upper or lower expression lines. Multiple balconies, if required, shall be confined to the rear and side elevations. So Michael's comment is balconies have not been implemented along expression lines and are not continuous. There are multiple non-continuous balconies provided on the front facades of each building frontage. He's correct about that. We do need relief from this. The only thing I can say is, the other first point was that the balconies shall be confined to the rear and side elevations. I'm not sure we have any, other than the interior courtyards, possibly rear and side frontages. We're all front yards because we're street frontage all the way around. So we need relief from this. L, building parts, cantilevered balconies shall be no deeper than 3 feet and shall be visibly supported by brackets. Balconies are a combination of side supported and cantilevered and are not visually supported with brackets and exceed 3 feet in depth. This is again a function of the style and what we want to do with the balconies and the fact that they're concrete. They don't require bracketed supports. A bracket, I think, would be used in a much more traditional style architecture to support a balcony. So we do need relief from this. Building parts, M, under no circumstances shall the windows be installed flush with the outer surface of the facade. Mr. Sullivan points out windows appear to be installed flush with the outer surface of the facade. And that is typical in this condition of a building without mullions and glass in a curtain wall kind of configuration. So we do have a flush condition in many cases. We need relief from that. And lastly, number N, windowsills shall be provided and lintels may be shown. The windowsill should slightly overlap the width of the window opening. And Mr. Sullivan comments, windowsills are not provided. We don't have a punched window in a wall situation where you would have a typical head and a sill detail. So we would request relief from this requirement. So I think that covers the architectural comments.
Dave, can you just summarize, I mean, there's quite a number of those, but they seem to be out of character with the design that you've created. Do you see any negative impacts resulting from the relief? Is there anything that compromises the building by not complying with these, or is this?
No, and in fact, I see it as an enhancement to the waterfront redevelopment plan in the sense that this puts this more in compliance with the immediate structures adjacent to the building, and we think provides a type of living environment and a type of visual environment for this part of Asbury Park, which is excellent, is going to raise property values throughout the city.
Can I just ask a question, if you wouldn't mind reviewing for us the immediate structures around this building?
That we would let.
Would you mind reviewing what you are considering the immediate structures around this building?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So go back to the site plan, yeah. So
And I guess I'm asking, I just want you to give us your interpretation of the styles of the buildings on all around this.
Okay, fair enough. On the south is obviously the Ocean Club.
And this is Exhibit 1 that we are referring to.
Correct.
Yeah.
And maybe flip to the next slide, Exhibit 2, which shows a photograph of the Ocean Club in place.
That's the lower left-hand corner, correct?
Just, I wouldn't mind going back to the plan, to your,
I can't.
Go back one more.
yeah, this one. So you're talking about the Ocean Club, correct?
That's correct.
And what about the Asbury? Would you describe what
Yeah.
materiality would you describe that
Yeah,
building as?
the Asbury is much more of I would call it like a barren wall type building, I believe it. Has, both a cementitious wall in the lighter color, the tan color, and a masonry facade on the portions that are east and west. The center portion is a curtain wall type area there, and at the ground level, we have the glass atriums on either side, and then a trellis structure on the roof. They're contemporary. It could be a traditional building in the sense it has punch windows on much of the facade, but I think it's handled in a contemporary fashion. I'm not sure if I could name a style that would fit that building.
Would you go back to your plans?
And then if you go back and look at the Fifth Avenue Pavilion directly across Ocean Avenue from us, there's an old portion which has been rehabbed recently. I think it used to be a Howard Johnson's, am I correct about that?
Yes.
And that's where that interesting roof form came from. And it's got obviously the cool ramp that wraps up around that building. And then there's the newer portion to the south, which has the Iron Whale restaurant on the ground floor and the upper level event space with the sloping seating on the upper level.
Technically, only
That
part of that,
also is a
only part
contemporary.
of that is new.
I can't hear you.
Only part of that is new, just to be technical about it.
If you could use the mic, that might help me.
Only part of that is new, so just this piece
Right.
is
Right.
an addition.
But I would put this building in all its pieces in a modern element and with some contemporary touches. The glass in the ground floor, glass in the upper level is contemporary.
And when you say modern, what does that generally define architecturally?
It was a style that included the first modern buildings that were sort of built in the 20s to the 40s, I would say. And it included buildings that were Art Deco, but it also included some of the first glass buildings and glass skyscrapers that were built in New York. So it's a fairly broad style, but it's meant to capture that sort of mid-century 20s to 40s modern style.
Yeah, so, but there's also a couple more buildings here.
Yes, there's the Berkeley Carteret directly across Bradley Park from our building to the north. That's
Primarily a masonry building. Primarily a masonry building.
a masonry building.
Okay, right, and convention hall?
Convention hall is a masonry building
Okay. So
with lots of decorative trim.
would you describe the Fifth Avenue Pavilion as a primarily masonry building?
I would not. Even though some of the.
Or tile?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, yeah.
but I say primarily,
Yeah,
it's a
there's
glass building.
There's a,
You know,
this
glass
is in the
contemporary
modern
building
style, yeah.
with some masonry elements, like our building has some masonry look at the ground floor as well.
And the Wonder Bar is primarily a masonry building, stucco. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So within the buildings that you've described, we have the Asbury Hotel, the Berkeley Carteret, and the Convention Hall, which are primarily masonry buildings. The Ocean Club, which is modern in its expression, nice looking building. The lower floors have a heavier, denser, solid feeling, and the upper floors tend to be very.
Correct.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure we've got.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's helpful to clarify that. And here you can actually see this photograph on the right side, you see the Berkeley Carteret. Anything else I can clarify for anyone?
Dave, does that conclude your direct testimony?
It does. I mean, I'm available to answer any questions that the professionals might have, in the public.
I know that you'd spoken a bit about bike storage, but I'm assuming that somebody else will speak about bike storage later?
Yeah, no, I can't.
All right, because you'd mentioned that there were 55 bikes that were available to be, that you could store 55?
You can store 55 in the bike storage room, but in addition to that, every resident in the building, all 155 units, have a separate storage cage on the ground level.
Yeah.
So if there was a need for more bike storage, we could certainly accommodate it.
Is there anything that the city requires as far as the amount of bike storage? Because 55 doesn't sound, out of 155 units, 55 doesn't sound like a lot. I don't know if there's anything that we require.
I would agree, 55 doesn't sound like a lot until he says each unit has their own storage unit.
They do, but let's be frank about it, when you're coming in, and if you could just park your bike here, as opposed to now I have to get my key to go to my storage unit, and my storage unit generally has other things in it, like things you would,
This could be their beach locker.
boxes,
This could be their personal beach locker.
it could be their personal beach locker. I don't know, you're right. I mean, it can
It probably will
go,
be. They probably have all the chairs in it, all the things like that. You're gonna put a
Right.
bike in there with all that.
right, that's what I question, is that are these storage areas big enough to have a bicycle and all of your other beach things, plus it's your storage. So therefore you might have, a chair, a lamp, other things.
Yeah, seasonal decorations.
Right, things like that.
These storage units, I think, are approximately 10 by 10. And you can see them shown in the dotted lines in 3 different locations on the ground floor.
Right, but that's only some of them. The rest of them are down there. Right? The rest of them are all there.
They're there.
And there.
There are 3 locations.
But they're all 10 by 10, as you point out.
Yeah. So every unit has a 10 by 10 storage.
10 by 10 is a nice size storage unit.
Those are just cages, right?
We haven't really designed them yet, whether they're gonna be partitioned or caged, I'm not quite sure. We haven't done the construction drawing.
Does anybody on the planning board have any questions of this witness?
I'm just looking at I just wanted to get a good idea of what your units look like, your 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom units. We didn't really talk about that at all. I'm trying to get a good idea. Is there like a typical one that we could look at real quick?
The unit plans?
Yeah, just to any one of your units, because I feel like we didn't talk about that at all. I just want to see like what the layout is.
Interior?
Yeah.
Yeah, So if you look at the unit on the right up there, this, what sheet is this, Michael, or what exhibit is this? Just so I can be clear about the record. Do you have any other thing? Well, once you get back to where you are, just identify the sheet. What's the fourth one?
So this is Exhibit A12.
A12, okay, I'm sorry. So if you look at the two-bedroom, 1,300 square foot unit, the way that unit works is that there is a front door into the unit from the corridor, which looks directly out to the balcony through a glass wall. So the minute you walk in the door, you see glass. We have an island kitchen toward the corridor. Our dining area would be in the center where the 1,300 is, and our main living space would be out at the balcony wall. We split the two bedrooms, one to give privacy from one another. Each bedroom has a bathroom associated with it. And then the balcony space has a little bit of an outdoor room on the right-hand side for a little bit larger sitting area or a dining table. And there we're showing the two-bedroom, 1,300 square foot unit. If you look at one bedroom to the left of that, that's 950 square feet. Again, a similar entry with kitchen, dining, living, and then the single bedroom is to the right, leading out onto a balcony with, again, an outdoor room and then balcony space. The larger three-bedroom unit on the corner, this one enters from the corridor into a vestibule. We have a powder room with coat closets to the left of the entry. And then as you come in, we have a large dining, living dining, kitchen area that faces the view and the private terrace. And then we have one bedroom above that with a private closet area and bath. And then we have two bedrooms on the south side showing a hall bath servicing that, a washer dryer in the hallway there. All units have their own washer dryer. Those are some typical units.
Thank you. Would it be, is it fair to say that every bedroom has a window?
Yes.
Thank God. Thank goodness. We like that. We like that.
I've two questions around, one is the sustainability features, and just in looking at the notes, it says here about utilizing strategies and techniques that would be sufficient to obtain LEED, and then not necessarily for certification, but that a scorecard will indicate which LEED requirements, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not.
You're talking about the green issue?
Sustainability, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay, yeah.
So my question is a few things. One, about if it's been thought through already about what type of mechanical equipment, or if the building is going to be looking at electric, or if that's thought through yet, or.
We're seeing, we haven't fully designed the mechanical in the building, but I'll tell you right now, we're seeing the majority of our buildings go pretty much all electric. If you're following what's happened in New York City has sort of banned gas buildings for environmental reasons. Not so much safety, but for environmental reasons. The one thing that we may want to do here is have a central gas hot water system, which is efficient, and have central boilers for the building. But generally, most of our equipment might be gas or electric. I can't hear you. Okay. We may have gas cooking, we haven't decided, but we may have gas ranges.
Okay, and then there would just be a LEED scorecard saying this is what we've done, essentially? I mean, through a regular LEED process, or how is that?
The reason we offer that up, it's very difficult to say in a planning board approval that we're going to be LEED certified X, whether it's silver or gold or platinum, whatever it is, because that achievement of that classification doesn't occur until almost a year after full occupancy, because LEED comes and inspects the building and makes sure it's performing at the level that you've stated it was. So what we've done in many towns is said, listen, LEED certification is like, it's almost like a Chinese menu of how you meet that certification. but we would try to score this building and provide a LEED scorecard, same one that you would submit to LEED for certification on the items that we would be intending to do. And that would be, again, what we will certify that we'll put in the building. We're not certifying that we're gonna get LEED certification.
So, thank you. And so the items that are listed here, you know, is sort of like a laundry list of things that are anticipated to be included. Do you think at this point those are the only things from the LEED, or are there other things? Like, how is that going to play out?
There are probably other things, but a lot of those things don't get determined until you're working hand in hand with your mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineer, working through each of those systems in the building, and then they become more clear of where you can put them on the scorecard. So the ones that are in this memo are ones that I believe we gave during the TRC process to Mr. Sullivan that we're wanting to stipulate that we'll attempt to do here. Beyond that, I do believe there'll be others, but we need to get deeper into the drawings and the engineering of the building to decide that.
I was hoping that it wasn't a comprehensive list yet, that this list wasn't what's being promised.
It's not the total list.
Okay, and then.
It's the middle.
It's, because I know it's just the wording and some with for example, like the construction waste management, then it says due diligence to try to reduce construction. I mean, something like that would be in the LEED checklist, but then it's called out as something.
And you'll see that. You'll see those kind of items show up when we submit the LEED checklist.
Okay, and then, okay, thank you. And then this kind of related piece in terms, you mentioned one thing about the window types of windows that you've selected, but in terms of resilience and obviously being at the ocean and all the issues around storms and, I mean, are there things like things like that in terms of resilience? Because this building is obviously in a.
We're going to work very hard on what kind of glass we use. It'll definitely be a low E glass, but there's a lot of new contemporary things happening with glass today that are technologically sophisticated. We're doing a few other buildings like that in the state, so as we work through the construction and the cost issues on the building, we'll bring that to bear.
Is this, I mean, I don't know much about LEED, but is this the minimum that someone would commit to, or are we in the middle?
It's a second. He's saying LEED silver.
Well, we are committing to, on D, 1 through 11.
Yeah,
Right, but they're not going to submit it to the LEED certification board for any sort of certification. They're just saying, we're gonna do the things on this checklist.
Right.
And that's it. We're not getting commissioned or certified in any way. So we can't call it LEED certified in any fashion.
But
we
you're
can-
asking about, I'm sorry to cut off, but you're asking about the silver, so it says utilize strategies and techniques that would be sufficient to obtain LEED silver, so that's one question that you're getting to. They're not promising that, but silver is the second level, so you can be LEED certified, which is the lowest level of LEED certification. The second tier is silver, and then there's gold, platinum. But again, so they're saying that they will incorporate these things but I mean, there's no commitment to being certified, it's saying.
Right, but if they do commit to 1 through 10, that's progress, and is it enough progress?
Silver's pretty good. It's not the best, but silver's
But
pretty
it's,
good.
because remember that we can put things in as part of an approval that we want. So think about it. Or is this okay?
Is your suggestion that we would be requiring them to seek certification?
Yes, if you want to.
I don't know if that's realistic.
I know, but I agree, but I'm just saying that.
It is realistic, but it's time and money.
Well, it's more just that, saying that you're going to utilize strategies. I mean, I don't want to sound a negative way, but you can also just have it, just say, well, we tried and we couldn't, we tried and we couldn't, we tried and we couldn't.
Mhm.
You know, so then, I mean, I appreciate that this is in here because it's a step in the right direction, but I don't see there's any way to come back and say, okay, we've achieved this because
Yeah, I'm looking for it.
You can just say, we tried this, but it's not feasible, or it's not cost effective, or whatever.
And to back that up, it's sort of, there are many factors that, when you do your LEED certification, there are many factors that go into that, and what may achieve LEED silver in one building might not achieve LEED silver in another. The size, the amount of, I'm not picking on you, the amount of glass, right? You know, like whether or not there are enough bike parking spots, if the, wastewater is recycled. So what you do in one building isn't gonna translate directly. The strategies they have proposed are a step in the right direction. Are they enough? I don't think anybody can answer that.
Well, I think what I was trying to get to is, like, is the goal from the project team, is the goal to hit, for example, the energy targets of LEED silver? Like, is energy a priority? Is, like, what does a team view as a priority
It's
here?
definitely a priority to us because we see a sophisticated buyer here who's interested in sustainability. So part of our marketing of this building will be that this is a sustainable building. So it's important to us, and it's important to us to be a good neighbor in the town, and we're committed to it. It's just right now, until you really get your teeth into the actual documentation of the building, it's hard to give you a very specific answer about the exact items that we're going to, but the items that are shown here in Mr. Sullivan's memo, we agreed to, and it may go beyond that.
Yeah, and I think I was reminded that the city was concerned about this also, and this found its way into the redevelopment agreement, where there is an exhibit of the minimum features that must be included. List Exhibit A2 to the redevelopment agreement to utilize the strategies and techniques to be sufficient to obtain at least the LEED silver certification. So it could go beyond that, as Dave has mentioned, where it makes practical sense to do it, but that would be the minimum, and that's been required in your redevelopment agreement and set forth in an exhibit there too.
Thank you.
Anything else from planning board members of this witness?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Do you mind going to your ground floor plan, specifically? Oh, you're on your ground floor. So, do you mind going to the rendering you showed of this corner? So I applaud your use of stoops along the faces. This corner one doesn't seem to work out as well as I think you might want. Like, you don't typically see like a porch like that right on the corner, especially these are very busy blocks. So you're gonna have a lot of traffic. So my suggestion might be that you rethink how this layout right at the corner works. And you also think about this is maybe an engineer, more for your engineer. Like, what about the curb line? Like, creating enough space at the curb so that whatever space your tenant has isn't, we don't have porches like that right at the building line, right at the property line, on a corner in a lot of cases. And so I think the way the corner is working out feels a little bit.
None of our porches or balconies project into the right of way.
Agreed, understood. But I think even you're just showing a lot of people here, I wonder the quality of this space and the kind of feeling public-y. I would just look at that configuration.
Yeah, we could put a landscape feature there, but you haven't seen any of that in Asbury Park, and I think you'll like it.
But while I agree with what Eric is saying, if I own that unit, I may as well just invite everybody that's walking by into my unit, because there's nothing.
You're in a fishbowl.
You're in a total fishbowl on your deck. But, you could do things in your living room. You could put shades. Yeah, there probably is a middle
People
ground.
have-
And so I think the middle ground exists both on your property and in the public right of way. That there is a curb solution to create more space at the corner and something to reconfigure this corner area, because this is their door, correct?
The door is further down.
Yeah, so like, they, you know, if this area was more of just a landscape or a
We can look at
hardscape
that from a
feature.
landscape
Yeah.
perspective. Mr. Bauer is going to testify later, and maybe he could add some thoughts to that.
And then my next question, may I
Go ahead.
continue, sorry, is about the coloration of these, you call them what kind of panels? This material, hydro? Equitone, thank you. So
Could you blow that up a little bit?
is
so we can
this true to color?
Yeah. It's a beautiful
So-
material with that shadow.
Yes, yes. I think the texture would be really nice. I'm curious if we might not want to look at something with a little more density to it, and that maybe reflects some of the materiality of the buildings around it. Maybe, I'm not gonna put it, I'm not even gonna call it a color. I'll let you do that as in your expertise, but there is a kind of, when you show your facades, there's a kind of monochromatic nature to the whole building. And maybe calling out a little more attention to your equitone with a little more density might help look not quite so.
It's hard to capture that in a rendering. but
Yeah, yes, agreed.
Because the Equitone has that striping and depth to it, it gives you a little bit darker feel in real life, because you see that shadow. There's almost as much shadow as there is.
So I think we should be able to see a
Let's
sample
read a
material
little bit darker.
at some point. This won't be your last meeting here, so I think we should see what you're thinking in terms of color and an example of the material.
Yeah, we'd be happy to provide that.
And Equitone comes in many colors, I assume?
Yes.
Yeah, so there are options.
Right, because isn't this something very similar that's on the Ocean Club? Actually on the same side?
I don't believe so.
No? On the
They have
opening?
Metal panels. Right? On the-
I thought it was on the side where people that live there can come in. There's, maybe it's wooden, I'm not sure. It's something just comes to mind.
Yes.
But that's okay. I mean, if bringing in a sample of what that looks, what the options are there would be good.
Thank you,
Okay.
those are my.
Any other questions from board members? Any questions from our professionals?
Yeah, one thing, we talk about materials, when you guys come back, it sounds like you're coming back. Could you provide a material board of all materials? That's gonna be important at the end if the board chooses to approve. We wanna have all of those
Sure.
materials.
Yes.
for us.
No problem.
Thank you.
Yes. Any questions from the public for this witness? No? Okay, next witness. If we could take a 5-minute break before your next
Sure.
witness,
Sure.
that'd be great. 5-minute? Motion?
Motion,
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
all in favor?
Aye. 5 minutes.
I will now take roll call. James Serrano.
Here.
Councilwoman Clayton.
Here.
Eric Gallo.
Here.
Mayor Moore.
Here.
Jennifer Sauter.
Here.
Chairwoman Barbara Kurzak.
Here. Okay.
All right.
Let's go.
Happy to be back. Their next witness, Tom Bauer. Can I have him sworn, please?
Sure. Hey, Tom, how are you?
Hi, good evening.
Please raise your right hand. Solemnly swear testimony about to give in this matter be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
Please state your name for the record and spell it.
My name is Thomas Bauer, B-A-U-E-R. I don't know if my, it's not. Am I on? Can you tell?
We have had
The
Mr.
red light
Bauer.
is not working.
We can never tell if it's on.
Mr. Bauer has appeared before us many
Yes.
times, so we can waive his credentials.
Thank you
Good
very
to go.
much.
As long as everything is
Yeah, you're
up to
still
date.
licensed.
Yes, I'm current, yes,
Good?
yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Tom, just introduce yourself quickly and your experience with these kinds of projects.
Sure.
You undertook to design the amenity space.
Certainly. Yes, I'm, again, for those who don't know, I'm a principal in a landscape architecture firm. I'm a Little Bauer Carmen. As you've said, we've been here a number of times in Asbury. We have been part of the design team as the landscape architect for several of the projects you saw tonight, the Asbury Ocean Club, the Asbury Hotel, even North Beach years ago. the boardwalk area with iStar on the north end of the boardwalk renovation. So we've got a lot of experience in Asbury Park. We've got a lot of experience on the coast along New Jersey, and we have a tremendous amount of experience with rooftop development as well, amenity roofs, green roofs throughout New Jersey. We have an office in Jersey City as well as Brielle. Brielle is our main address, and we have a lot of experience in those areas. So this is right up our alley,
Okay.
on the coast with a green roof.
And
Yeah.
can you walk the board through beautiful
Sure,
design that's
sure
been
can.
created?
Yeah, and I just said to Dave, he did such a good job, he didn't leave me much to talk about, but so I could be very brief, I believe. Streetscape, street level.
These are a couple new exhibits, but some of what we've already
Sure.
introduced.
I think pretty much everything that we're going to see has been shown at least once already.
So this is the ground floor level, which we
Yeah.
introduced as Exhibit 8.
Exhibit 8. We call it labeled Streetscape Plan. And again, just in terms of detail, Dave spoke about all the four sides of the building and the stoops and the patios and the activation of the street level. I will tell you a little bit of detail. We are in total compliance with the redevelopment plan in terms of materiality. We have concrete sidewalks as the primary hardscape element. The area between the sidewalk and the curb is the concrete pavers that you see as the Asbury Ocean Club, Asbury Hotel, and the other areas within the town, within the city. We have street trees along the three sides. There are no street trees on Ocean Avenue. We have street trees at 30 feet on Center, typically on both 4th and 5th Street, as well as on Kingsley. The variety is a little bit different. Your plan, Mike Sullivan has indicated that he would prefer London plane trees on 4th and 5th Avenue. Our plan has called for Quans and cherries. The reason we did that is because that's what we used at the Asbury Ocean Club, and they've done fairly well. And we've had trouble with plane trees, but we're open to whatever your preference would be.
The redevelopment plan is very specific about what species it is, and the Quansons are not generally good street trees in terms of their height and other things, so.
Yeah.
Stick with what the plan says.
Fortunately, though, they live, and the plane trees are having difficulty in this area.
If you have another suggestion that's actually got the same.
We're very open to it, very open to the variety of trees, so we can talk more about
We'll talk
that
about
if that's okay.
Yep.
It's tough, again, because the environment, it's the salt air, it's the wind. This is not a great environment for street trees, it just isn't. So we try our best. We have bicycle racks as required, we have trash receptacles as required, and we have benches throughout the entire streetscape as required. So we're in complete compliance, I think, with the guidelines in terms of the streetscape. So next slide, I think we have.
Just before we get the, so your planning details, I'm not so sure your planning details are in compliance, but you will agree to comply?
The actual planting detail itself?
Yes.
If it's not, we will certainly comply, yeah.
Do you know how many bike racks you have out there or are the streetscape or are you proposing, sorry?
I'm sorry, did you say how
Do you know
many?
how many bike racks are being proposed for outside?
There are bike racks
Do
proposed.
you know how many, like at least?
I don't know, I would have to go back and count them, but it's, again, whatever you require, we are complying with. Yes, yeah. Okay. Next slide, we have a couple of images. Again, you saw this image. We can talk about the improvement to that corner patio, as the gentleman on the board has indicated, perhaps through some landscape solutions to soften that area. We're happy to do that and make that a little bit more comfortable outdoor area for that resident. But as you can see here, these are indicative of some of the Quans and cherries when they're in flower, Mike, perhaps, but we can change those trees. But I think the streetscape in general will be very attractive, again, in part because of the activation of the patio. I think that's going to enhance the livability of the streetscape tremendously. Next slide, Mike. Again, this one, you saw this also, exhibit number, Mike, I'm not sure. But this is the Ocean Avenue retail area. Again, the activation with the retail, perhaps restaurants, outdoor dining area.
Six.
What do you have?
I have A19.
Yep.
A19?
A19 it is. So again, we think this will be a terrific addition to Ocean Avenue with the activation of the restaurants and retail facing Ocean Avenue. And this is really the gem of the project, I think, is really the rooftop of the 4th floor. Again, do we need to identify the exhibit, Mike?
This is
Number?
Rooftop amenity plan A17.
So we've got, again, Dave gave a very good, nice explanation about the architecture, how it's in framing this area. And it's really doing several things here. Obviously, this roof deck, first and foremost, is hiding our parking. Just as it's being hidden around the three sides of the building, it's also hidden from above because this rooftop is over top of our parking structure. So it provides a tremendous amenity. It's a great extension of the indoor amenity that Dave so nicely explained. It provides activities for the residents that are functional. We've got two pools. Dave explained how the one pool is a year-round pool, indoor, outdoor. That's the one to the bottom, to the south end. The larger pool to the north end is wrapped by a wood deck with chaise lounges and shade trellis and the like. It has a sun shelf for a shallow water enjoyment of the residents. It's an infinity edge pool, if you will, because it has a waterfall on the right side, as Mike is pointing out. And it's more of a seasonal, it's a summer pool. It's meant to be opened from Memorial Day through Labor Day and likely closed and covered at that point in time. So that portion of the rooftop, that top right portion around that pool area will be utilized for 3 months of the year, whereas the balance of the roof, the spa pool, the indoor-outdoor pool, as well as the entire green area between the two towers will be utilized on a year-round basis. The amenities that we have in there, obviously lawn, this is going to be real grass with real soil. Drainage and irrigation on these rooftops is very important and is a key component to the success of these rooftops. As you can see, and as David mentioned again, there are private patios for each of these residents that are located at the 4th floor level. There's a circulation pattern. Mike, if you can point out where the north tower exits, we have access through that door. The south tower is accessible through the amenity space. So we have complete circulation through there. There's a passive feel to the overall rooftop through the green. The stabilized granular material that is the walkway is very passive. It is actually accessible. Everything out here, by the way, is accessible ADA-wise. We have communal barbecue outside of the amenity space. You can see a bank of 3 barbecues and some larger dining tables. We have some individual barbecue tables. I think we have 3 of them throughout the rooftop, again, for the residents to enjoy. There are some other casual dining areas or lounge areas with perhaps a fire bowl or 2 in those areas. And of course, the planting throughout it is coastal planting appropriate that will tolerate the conditions of the environment that we talked about. Dave also mentioned the plunge pool as an option for the residents should they enjoy the opportunity to add a plunge pool on their private patio. So it's a great area. And not only is it functional, and it's screening the parking below, but it's for all of those residents that are up above, the floors all the way up through 8, to look down upon this area from their balcony is a great amenity as well, a visual amenity. Here's a view, you saw this one earlier, looking back toward the ocean in an easterly direction. Terrific view, and you can see some of the amenities. The lawn, as I mentioned, the informal passive pathway, the shade trellises, fire bowls, barbecue areas, just a great outdoor place for the residents to enjoy. We find out through our experience in North Jersey with a lot of the rooftops that these areas really expedite the purchase of units, make these much, much more desirable. The amenity spaces, both indoor and outdoor, are a huge proponent or advantage to the sellability of the residents. And they look great. Next slide, Mike. Again, you saw this one as well from Dave. This is looking back. The ocean is behind us. We're looking back in toward the amenity area. The pool to the left is the indoor-outdoor pool, year-round usability. Shade trellises. We have 2 saunas off to the left side there for the use of the residents. Ample chaise lounges, wood deck for the most part. We do have a little bit of a grade change. What's not shown here is that the pool to the right, that's your summer pool, is actually elevated a bit. So there is there are steps and handicap ramps to access that area, in addition to the planting throughout the entire area. And here's a view of the infinity edge pool. As that water is falling on the far side, as you're on the ocean side, there's a waterfall. So the intent is to get as much of an infinity edge pool look to this as we can possibly get. Next. Then we're going to jump up. This is the 5th floor. David again mentioned the 2 villas here that have outdoor rooms. These are terrific outdoor spaces for private use of that individual homeowner. We've got an outdoor kitchen with screen wall between the 2, outdoor kitchen for both of them. Each of them have the opportunity for a plunge pool. There's dining areas, barbecue area within the kitchen, and lounge area with a fire table, and then chaise lounge area. These would be terrific outdoor spaces for those two homeowners. And then we go up further, up on the mezzanine level. David explained that these are great little areas because each one of these homeowners has a 2-level outdoor space. If you zoom, thanks, Mike. So that lower area, we can see there's some dining tables, it's a barbecue area, very protected from the wind and the elements. There's a great little outdoor space in the right weather conditions. And then you come up from here through some of the stair areas. There's a stairway that goes right up to the top. And then this is like a primo view spot from here. Again, the opportunity for lounge furnishings, textured pavings, a plunge pool, and just great views of the entire surrounding area from up in this area. So these are very special areas.
I'm sorry, so gas is coming up there.
I'm sorry?
So gas is coming up there.
Gas?
Gas because you were saying barbecues. So
Barbecue at the
gas.
lower level, the lower of these 2 levels, yes. The lower.
Okay, so the units they'll be gas.
I'm sorry. I mean, it could be electric if right? Could be electric, could be gas.
It could be.
Is there a problem with gas?
I'm just reiterating that are they going to be gas? I'm just saying that.
Undecided. But they will be barbecues. You'll be able to have a hamburger and a hot dog up there. Yeah.
Right, because getting those put in afterwards, you're going to need the fire department to approve it. You're going to need permits all over the place.
Okay.
So if you're going to do them, you do them up front, not afterwards.
Not afterwards.
It's ugly.
Understood, okay. Okay, I think that pretty much covers all of the different levels. And I think in general, we just have a gorgeous project, great architecture, and a great landscape to complement that architecture.
Any planning board member have any questions of this witness?
Of the beautiful spaces, I just have one very tight. English ivy is in the tree pits?
I'm sorry?
I mean, English ivy is in the tree pits?
I believe we have ivy as a ground cover under the street trees, yes.
Is there any chance of switching that out to, only because, well, one, I mean, I know it's not gonna be invasive in those spots, but I also do see, I mean, the English ivy doesn't seem to, one, when people see it, then they want it in their house, and then it takes over people's yards. But two, I do see it doesn't always do that well. Like when I go back and forth all the time by Ocean Club, and I see doesn't always thrive anyway. Maybe there's an alternative, or do we need to?
There are alternatives. Liriope is another one that we use a lot of times in this kind of a climate. We're open to options, sure.
I just always try to avoid.
Yeah, I don't know how invasive it's going to be down here. It's not much area to invade.
It's just more the other part of it is that it's more of like a.
But we're certainly open to other material, plant material, for sure. Yes.
The palette is
Yeah.
limited.
It's very
In
limited.
an urban
Yeah.
beachfront. So I know exactly what Tom's saying, and we're always looking for the same thing. So we should look at alternatives, and there's something better that's as durable, then we should come up
But
with
does
it.
it even need to have a ground under the?
Does it?
Does it need to?
Rather than a tree grate
Yeah.
Or
I mean, if it's
pavers.
not gonna work,
or pavers.
I'm just saying, because I do run by the Ocean Club every single day, and I see, I mean, I know it's a tough condition, like you said, for the
Yeah.
street trees and for ground cover there. And so I don't really see the value added of having English ivy.
We should take a look at that and see whether or not a vegetative ground cover is even warranted there, and maybe it has something else that.
I think the idea of adding some greenery to the streetscape is positive. In fact, we've enlarged those areas. I think we're 5 by 10 of a planted area below those trees, which is typically smaller than that. The idea of, again, adding green is positive, but we're certainly open to it. Other options.
Thank you.
We can coordinate with Mr. Sullivan, yeah.
Any other questions from the planning board members? Our professionals? Any questions? Okay.
I have a couple questions, and your plans show the streetlights.
We do, yes, I didn't
correct?
touch on street, I did, yeah, we have, thank you for bringing that up, I did not mention streetlights. We do
Okay.
have,
Before we just get to the streetlights, is there anything in the plan that we should be talking about that has to do with landscape that was brought up by in our planner report before we move on?
I think the only thing that wasn't touched on with respect to planning is that we did recommend subbing out of the oak leaf hydrangea. There's a dwarf oak leaf hydrangea on the roof deck. They're gonna irrigate. It's a great shade tolerant plant. If they're gonna irrigate and it's protected from the wind, then.
So you're okay with that?
I'm okay with it.
Okay, and we're going to work on the English ivy and find something else.
Sure.
We're gonna look for
Okay.
that.
We're happy to do that.
Okay, so then I
Yes.
don't think that there was
And
anything
we're
else.
gonna look for maybe a substitute for the plane tree and the cherry tree.
Yes.
Okay, so we're okay with the planning document as far as landscape is concerned.
Well, we've talked about all the issues that we have, and we've
Okay.
talked about how they're gonna be resolved.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Let me finish on the lighting.
Let's go to
I
lighting.
didn't intend to mention that. We have lighting on all four sides of the building. On the Kingsley Street side is the Hadco light, which is the one that's, again, the same light that's opposite. I'll use the Asbury Ocean Club as an example. The other three sides of the building all have the luminous fixture, which is again, the same one that's at the Asbury Ocean Club, and it's consistent. So we've got them, they're basically 60 feet on center throughout, and they meet, again, your guidelines. So we do have addressed proper lighting of the streetscape. In addition to that, there will be at some point building lighting, once the architects get to that level of detail. But even without that, we do show adequate foot candle coverage without the building lighting. So we do
But if
meet
there
the
is building lighting, it has to comply.
It will have to be what?
It has to comply to what.
Sure.
What the board requests, downlighting,
Yes.
night, what's it called?
Yeah.
Night sky compliant.
Dark sky compliant, yes. And the lighting on the rooftop as well, absolutely will be dark sky compliant.
Everything downward
Everything.
facing.
Bollards,
Everything.
downlights, everything.
But as of now, just to be clear,
Yeah.
the only lighting that's shown on the plan are the street lights.
That's right.
The
That's
deck-
correct.
The rooftop lighting is not shown, the
Correct.
building lighting is not shown.
Correct.
So we haven't, there's been no review of those. So there's no.
So that has to come back, because don't we need to know what the lighting's going to be? I mean, everybody else seems to
We
always
normally suggest.
come back.
We normally suggest that you do know what the lighting's gonna be.
I'd like to know what the lighting's going to be for everything, so that everybody is happy around the
Yeah.
building.
In the past, sometimes we've done that at resolution compliance as well, with some of the light details, if you'd be open to that. But it'll be very subtle. The rooftop lighting will be very subtle,
Yeah.
be understated, bollard lighting.
Yeah, just as a point, the streetlights that they're putting in are pursuant to the WRP standards.
Right.
So if they're at the right spacing, the right wattage,
Yeah.
and the right fixture, we're
You're
good.
good.
Right? It's really the ones that they have discretion over, which are the lights on the rooftops and the buildings.
I'd like to see the samples of what they're gonna be, just like we have everybody else that comes here that shows us what they're going to put in.
So would you want to have that as something we come back to the board with?
Yeah.
as a-
Just like you're coming back with a material board, we'd like
Well,
to see.
I don't think we'll have the lighting finalized by the next meeting. I mean, that would be something, I think, as the site is finally designed, we would come back, later.
I'm gonna bring that to our professionals, what do they think? Because I'm
Well,
feeling
I
a
don't
little,
think
I'm
it's a-
feeling a little weird about it.
I don't think it's a site plan requirement. So we're happy to show you as part of the final plans.
It's totally a site plan requirement.
So we've always had that.
It's totally a
Yeah.
site plan, yeah.
Interior lighting on the building.
Exterior lighting.
Exterior, all exterior
We
lighting.
always get to see
Yeah,
that.
and it's
Right.
because there's requirements, and it's, the board evaluates it, whether it's illuminating the building facade or whether it's spilling off the building. They need to
Sure.
know whether or not the rooftop is spilling off the building.
Yes,
I'm
We-
just surprised we didn't supply it.
it does. And also, I see that L1C and L1D, I can tell you they're pretty much, I can't read them. What the spillage is here, I can't tell, because the numbers are,
The point by point you're referring
yeah,
to?
I can't see what the numbers are.
I think you can read them
I
on
don't know
a
if
full
it's any
size.
better on the,
On a full scale plan, you can read them.
on the full scale, yeah, right now, I can't read this at all.
I think you have a reduction
This is
there.
on L1C? Let me just take a look to see if I can
Sure.
see it on here.
Sure.
We can also display it then, and
Yes.
so that people can see what's being shown.
Yeah, Mike has just brought up the foot candle coverage.
Right.
For, give them.
Oh, there you go.
Luminous bulb, yeah, so you can read them.
All right, now we
They're
can
all
see
legible.
something.
Yeah.
And that's reflecting the streetlights.
All right, this is only streetlights. We needed to
That's
reflect
streetlights only. Yeah.
what's going to be on the building, so we can see what the
Yeah, understand
spillage
that that's
is.
just going to add to the, then we meet the requirement with just the streetlights.
So the board wants to see that item.
Exterior lighting and spillage coverage, you guys,
Yeah, typically we would have that in time to review prior to a
yes.
timeline like that.
Wow. It's all about when we need to get our report back to the board.
Yep, well,
So
we,
if you need the report a week in advance,
Mhm.
generally we have 1 to 2 weeks
That's fine.
beforehand.
it's fine, it's gonna be a little bit before we have another meeting, so I don't think that's going to be too much of an issue. Okay, anything else? We're okay? All right, our professionals, any other questions? No? Public, questions of the, okay, we have a public. Go.
Hey, Michael Goonan, 1101 Ocean Avenue. A couple of questions. On the site plan, there is a fence called what do they call it? Partition screen along Ocean Avenue. Can you tell us more about that?
Partition screen, yes, the partition screen was a suggestion as a possibility of defining the dining area outside the retail on Ocean Avenue. It was either a partition screen or a planter to define that dining area from the public sidewalk.
So will that definitely be there, or it's optional?
I think it's optional at this point, quite honestly. Again, it depends on what the use of the retail is, whether it's a restaurant or some other type of use, but it's a possibility. I think it's a good idea to have some definition at that point. But yes, I think that's, again, I would say it's dependent upon what that final user is, what that tenant is.
Okay.
If that's,
Can I actually follow up about the screen? Is that a Core 10 product, or is that some other kind of product?
it's not necessarily a Core 10 product.
Okay, so.
It's not, no.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
sorry.
And then I want to ask about the little, I would call it a courtyard between the building and Wonder Bar.
Yes.
There's something in there called, it's labeled as a garden wall.
Garden wall, yes.
How high is that and what material is that?
I think we had that about 8 feet high, and I'm not sure what that material was, to be quite honest with you. Mike, do you recall? I don't know that we specified it. But the intention was to provide a buffer between the retail restaurant area and provide some privacy for the Wonder Bar outdoor area.
It's poured in place on the plans.
Does it say poured in
It
place?
says poured in place, yep.
That would infer that it's a concrete wall then.
Or am I
And it would be
looking at-
decorative, to be detailed, yeah.
And my last one is, so I live in the Ocean Club. Trash on 4th Avenue is like a huge problem in the summer because it just blows in. How many trash receptacles are there along 4th and 5th Avenues? And would you be amenable to maybe adding more?
Yeah, I think they're typically at the corners, at the street corners. So that would be one per each corner, a trash can and a recycling container, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, there's one there, yeah, trash and recycling.
Are you saying that's not enough?
Well, yeah, in the
Since
summer
you are
now, trash
familiar with
kind
the
of
area?
like piles up at the receptacles that are on the island in the 2 corners on 4th Avenue, and then it just blows up 4th Avenue. So I don't know if that's a site plan problem or a city problem, but.
We would be happy to add more if that's required. We'd be happy to do that.
I think it's more a city problem.
It is a city problem?
Yeah.
Sounds like a maintenance
We've
issue.
gotten complaints
Yeah, yeah.
about the trash more on the islands.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's when they were still using those ugly blue barrels. And now that we put in the blue and black ones that have a top, I think there's less spillage. But it's just a question like, are they being emptied quick enough?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is probably not a site plan question, so thank you.
I may have misspoke. I don't think you have a detail for those walls. You have a detail for the porch wall, the stoop
The porch wall, yes,
You don't
yes.
have one for the.
garden wall.
For the garden wall.
Okay, I
So
didn't
you-
think we did. Yes, okay,
That needs to be specified.
yes.
Just a question, it's probably not to you, and I'm just asking our attorney to let me know when we're going to discuss it. the whole separation of Wonder Bar, Yappy Hour, the driveway, who's going to have that, who are we going to talk to that about?
What's the question?
About the whole Wonder Bar, Yappy Hour area, the driveway, when are we going to talk about that? And who's going to talk about
So
it?
the landlord's attorney is here to speak on that issue.
Okay,
And
Okay.
talk about that
all right, so somebody else will be.
repurposing.
Okay, all right. Anything else for this witness? Okay,
Thank you.
all right.
We'd like to bring up our civil engineer, Bill Salmon.
We ask if any member, there were no additional members of the public. Okay, that's fine. Okay, all right, I'm with you. Go ahead.
Good.
Sir, please raise your right hand. Solemnly swear testimony about to give this matter with the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
Please state your name for the record and spell it.
William Salmon, S-A-L-M-O-N, just like the fish.
Thank you.
Bill, can you give the board the benefit of your experience, education, and affiliation?
Yes, I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey employed by PS&S. I'm in charge of their site civil departments in Wall Township and Cherry Hill. In addition to New Jersey, I'm licensed in 5 other states, all the way from New York down to North Carolina. And I'm also a certified floodplain manager, which is a national certification. I possess 35 years' experience preparing site plans like the one before you. And I also possess a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from Youngstown State University, Youngstown, Ohio. I have testified probably before 3 or 4 dozen boards just like yours. I don't believe I've been qualified by this board, but I have been qualified by Keyport, Upper Freehold, and Eatontown in Monmouth County.
And,
Chairman, I'd offer.
and licenses are all up to date?
Yes, all of them.
Okay, all right.
Yes, thank you.
All right, so you've got some exhibits that we should mark, and then we can get into your testimony. So what is up on the screen at this point?
This is a site plan rendering. It's a color version of the site plan that you have in your application package.
And it was prepared by you or others under your direction?
In my office, yes, yes.
All right.
And what this exhibit displays is the site plan and also the subdivision that is before you. This application includes a minor subdivision with the Wonder Bar next to you to the north. There's a dedication of 16.7 feet wide by 150 feet deep, totaling 2,500 square feet in area. The existing Wonder Bar lot is 7,500 square feet, and with this subdivision, it'll go up to 10,000 square feet. Now, the Wonder Bar lot is a non-conforming lot as it exists today. This will not make it conforming, but it will make the variance situation, if you will, improved. There was a comment by your engineer about how we're going to perfect this subdivision, and we would like to perfect it by deed. It's typical of a minor subdivision. And then with that, since Dave went first and then Tom went, there's not a ton to testify with regard to engineering, but I do want to talk a little bit about some important aspects of the property. The property is relatively flat. It starts out at elevation 11, which is really important, and then it goes up to about 13. The reason elevation 11 is important is because the 100-year floodplain is at elevation 10. So our site is not within the 100-year floodplain when you plot it based upon elevation. We have made application down to the state to CAFRA for compliance to the CAFRA permit that the city has, and in that application is a request for compliance to the floodplain management rules under NJAC 7:13. And then, as you heard both Dave and Tom talk about finished floors and porches and what have you, The finished floor of the commercial area is going to be at elevation 11, and the elevation of the sidewalk is going to be right around 11 with a 2-foot step up into the unit. So the units are going to be, the finished floor of the units are going to be off of that floodplain elevation by about 3 feet or so. In addition to, yeah, we have stormwater management facilities underneath the building. It's a vault system. You can see where the cursor is on the screen there. Those vaults retain stormwater runoff from the roof area. It's attenuated to meet the state regulations, which is a 2, 10, and 100-year storm. It's reduced to 80% runoff for the 100 years. So that will be in compliance to 7:8 stormwater management regs. In addition, that's also under the purview of DEP, and so we're seeking approval for stormwater management as well. We do not need to provide water quality. We do not need to provide recharge because of we're in planning area 1, and there's no new motor vehicle surfaces with this project. It's all rooftop, which the state looks at clean runoff. Again, everything, in addition to this board, it needs state approval for stormwater management. The site will be serviced by public water and public sewer, and also your basic telephone, electric cable will be underground to the building. The site plan is compliant to your zoning regulations. The waterfront development area does comply with the redevelopment plan, and also the CAFRA permit that the city has obtained a long time ago. Again, we are down at the state for their approval, and I heard rumor that we are number 2 on the list for their review, so hopefully we'll get that permit compliance very soon. With regard to other regulatory approvals, we submitted to the Freehold Soil Conservation District. We do have Monmouth County Planning Board approval. The site will need a treatment works approval from the state and a water extension permit as well. And that is all I have on direct.
Yeah, why don't we, just a few questions. The parking, adequacy of parking, number of spaces, and relief required from the RESA standards versus the redevelopment plan standard.
Yeah, as Dave indicated, the parking does comply on site. I do want to mention the perimeter parking, the public parking. There are 5 new parking stalls that'll be on the south side on 4th Street, and we're losing 1 stall to the south side. So we're a net 1 parking stall for public parking. And as Dave indicated, we do comply to the town ordinance, and as you saw in your engineer's review letter, we do need a de minimis exception from RSIS for parking to their standards.
Will you be going over how much parking we have, how much we need, how many are EV? Are you going to review all that?
Yeah, I can. I believe Dave hit upon it.
Actually, he didn't, but go ahead.
Okay.
I pay attention to that a lot.
Yeah, we're providing 270 spaces. We're required 233, and I do believe you heard testimony. There will be -6 parking stalls for parking adjacent to the ramp, and I believe there was some comment from your planner with regard to some striping internally that we might lose a few, but we're fairly overparked.
So you're saying that you have 270 spaces, and you only have 233 that are required. So 270 after you take away whatever
It's going
you
to
took
be,
away?
it's 264 once the adjustment for the 6,
All right,
the 2 per
264.
floor are made. So you
Okay.
have 264 actual spaces.
Okay?
Correct.
And 233 are required.
Is required.
How many are EV?
42.
And 10 for.
And we're committing 10
42
spaces to.
EV and 10 for Wonder Bar.
Wonder Bar.
Does that leave anything that you're having public coming into this, or is this all spaces only for residents?
All for residents.
Only residents.
What's the RSIS requirement? I always average it in my head, but,
6 over there, about.
yeah. What's it?
About 306.
306, you've got 264, and you've got 42, or are you actually going to have fewer now? You're going to have fewer EV spaces?
We would reduce probably by like 1 EV space or so.
So you have, what do you have, 42 EV spaces
Right,
now?
yeah.
So you probably have 40 of those? So you get a
Probably.
bonus of 40
Probably,
towards your RSIS and your local requirements, right?
yeah.
Oh, it's 10% max, so whatever the requirement is, if it was 3,
276 required, okay-ish.
Yeah.
If you take away the 30 for the EV, so you're 6 short. Rough math.
To RSIS.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So we'll see the minimus, exactly.
For RSI?
Right.
Okay.
What are the dimensions of these spaces? I didn't see any measurements on them in the plans.
Just 9 by 18.
9 by 18, every one of them? No compact spaces at all?
No.
All right, so 9 by 18. When you're saying EV, are we talking about EV ready, or are they totally ready to plug in? Somebody just drives up, are they ready to plug in?
We'd be fully ready to plug in.
Ready to plug in, so they're fully functional.
Yes.
Okay. And can you please go over once again around the building? But we said that you were adding a few spaces, removing some spaces.
Yes,
So you're adding 5 there.
5 in the bright white on 4th.
Okay.
And then on Kingsley, we're going to be a -1 for our garage entrances.
Is it 1 or 2?
2. Was it 1 or, it looks like,
It looks like 3.
it looks like more than 2. It looks like at least 3.
It's 2 driveways.
But
Two
I'm
driveways
sorry,
plus
we're
something
-4, we're a net +1.
Okay, so can we talk about what's going on Ocean? There's quite a large space there. What's that about?
That's already existing.
That's already existing? Do we need
Yeah.
to keep that?
It's narrow there, it's a width thing.
We would like to keep that striping.
Well, okay, but do we have to?
Depends, we don't have to, no, it depends on the width of, if we can fit a parking lane there, we can add one. I don't know what the width of that roadway is, I think it was done that way for the width, but we have to double check.
Well, it's just an opportunity for us to get more spaces if we can.
100%.
Okay, all right. So who would do that? Is that us? City would do that?
Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to propose that the city take a look.
If I could, there's no objection to looking at that area for more parking, but we would like an area for delivery of packages. Your typical UPS and FedEx and Amazon type deliveries. There'll be a front door delivery, so we would like that area for drop
Why
off.
can't you use your loading area? I just assumed you use the loading area for all of that.
That type of vehicle typically doesn't go into the loading area and go into the building.
We prefer to go in loading area.
Yeah.
I don't want, this is our beachfront. This is where we have the highest parking demand in the entire city. It's a pain to manage, and we try to squeeze out every space we can possibly get. I would very much like it for you to be doing all that in your loading zone. You have an area dedicated to it. You're putting moving trucks in there. You basically have the space for it. I don't see why you couldn't do package delivery in that road.
Okay.
Cool?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we're happy to do it, whether or not they pay attention to what we require.
I understand.
Who would pay attention?
FedEx, UPS,
Well,
Amazon.
people will be parked there.
This
So,
is, I mean, you know, you're hitting on it locally. This is a problem not just in Asbury Park.
No,
a
it's
problem
everywhere.
in lots of places, right? And it's a combination of making sure you manage the curbs, as you're
Right.
suggesting, but also enforcing it as it happens.
Mhm.
It's twofold.
Yep. Yep. Okay,
I'll let you do it.
Are you done, Madam Chairman?
yes.
So the next thing I want to just confirm, you've had the opportunity to review Insight's review letter of May 11th, 2000.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
So mark Insight's letter as B2, please.
And can you confirm that we've either addressed the items that require testimony or were otherwise willing to comply with the plan revisions and set forth in that letter?
Yes, so we will comply with the comments in the letter. They are very technical. Don't want to take the board's time up, but your engineer has asked for testimony on certain things, and I'll talk about those now. If I am silent on it, we agree to take care of those items in the letter.
If our engineer is fine with that, I'm good with it.
We spoke on the phone earlier today, that's what he was referring to, so we'll see what he has to say, and I'll cover anything that might be missed.
Okay. All right.
Okay. The first item on page 3, item 9, under major site plan completeness, number 9, request testimony on a 5-foot wide right-of-way that's in the middle of the property. That right-of-way will be vacated as part of this application. And we talked about RSIS on the top of page 6. I'm sorry, comment number 24 on the top of page 6. We talked about RSIS. The number 28 in the top, on the middle of page 6, talks about the service providers. I gave testimony with regard to how the building will be serviced, public sewer, public water, telephone, electric cable underground. We will provide the will serves that we have in hand. We do need a few more that to get from some of the utilities, and when we get them, we'll certainly provide them. On page 7, item number 34, distance between driveways shall be dimensioned. An exception may be required. And that's fine. We provide separation from the 2 garage doors less than 50 feet. It's basically 50 feet center to center. And one is for, daily traffic. The other one is for loading, and we don't see that being used very often, but an exception is fine if necessary. Number 36 on page 7 has to do with the site triangle easement. Excuse me. Your ordinance requires a site triangle measured back towards the building and a fairly good distance down the street on Kingsley. One hesitation that we do have on that is if you go by the letter of the law with the site triangle, you would lose the parking spaces on Kingsley, which we understand is a hot commodity here. So we would like your permission to work with your board engineer to come up with an alternative site triangle in that area, making sure the sidewalk stays clear so the vehicles exiting the building can see both north and south. But we don't want to lose those parking spaces, just like you don't want to lose them.
So that's basically, if they comply with the ordinance, they're going to eliminate on-street parking. If they get some relief, they'll be able to keep more on-street parking. So.
But where is that specifically? By the driveways, so what would we lose?
Right, you would have to see, if typically you go back about 15 feet or so from the front, if you can go by the garage entry, right there. And then you would have to look about 150 feet, 200 feet, both south and north, and have a clear sight. So when that car is in that side triangle, you wouldn't be able to see through it. So what we're asking for is to modify that side triangle area so you can keep the parking.
Keep it safe, but not to the standard that is typically requested.
Correct.
Well, that would have to be worked out with our director,
With your
our
engineer.
engineer and our director of transportation.
Yeah. Number 37 on page 7 with regard to CAFRA indicated we did make a submission to CAFRA back in last summer, and we are rumored to be number 2 on their list for review and approval. So hopefully we'll get that soon. Number 38 is with regard to timing of public infrastructure. And typically public infrastructure on a project such as this would be at the end, because you put it in early, all the construction activity for the building would damage the public infrastructure, your light posts, your benches, and things of that nature. So we would hold that off to the end prior to COOs. And number 41 is with regard, on page 7, is with regard to encroachments into the right-of-way. There are no proposed encroachments into the right-of-way. The balconies will be on the property line. And then number 45 and number 46 on page 8, we do need a treatment works approval for sanitary sewer, and also a certification or a compliance statement, rather, with regard to flood hazard area from CAFRA. Emergency vehicles, as Dave indicated before, we have multiple building entrances. Your emergency vehicles can circle the entire site, the entire building. And that's all I have. That's all I have with regard to the letter.
We discussed some stormwater management things on the phone earlier. They're more technical. He agreed to work with us on those things. Just as an indication, the most significant of those, I think, was the groundwater mounding analysis. So the stormwater system is sending rainwater into the ground, which causes groundwater to mound and spread wide. So we are going to talk about how to tweak that design a little bit to protect the Wonder Bar, for example. The other adjacent neighbors are the right-of-way, so there may be no issue there, but we'll take a look at that, but we're going to look at the Wonder Bar. But there's flexibility on that. That could be designed around, I'm sure. And also to give you added level of comfort, the DEP is going to be looking at this upside down and sideways. So between the two of us, it'll be vetted out.
Okay. Can we just have a discussion about, when you first started, you'd mentioned that the Wonder Bar, that lot there was going from 7,500 square feet to 10,000 square feet?
That's correct.
So can you tell me what's changing? Like, because what they have today, is anything changing from what their lot looks like today?
Well,
What's changing here?
Today, they encroach further to the south where our tan building is.
Yes.
And I believe.
The lot, she's asking, where's the lot line today?
Yeah,
Oh.
where's the lot line today?
So you got it. The lot line to the, that's it right there. And
That's
then-
today.
That's today, and then it's 16.7 feet to the south is the proposed lot line
Making it larger.
by 2,500 square feet.
I don't know, does that look right?
Well, I'm
To
pretty
the rest of you?
I'm pretty
'Cause
sure Yappy
that
Hours
looks
is going to
off.
be taken off of that. That probably
But-
just the back patio.
Are they saying that they currently encroach?
They encroach on their space.
That they currently are.
Currently, they encroach, so they're gonna bring it in,
Yeah, but give them that property.
but you're gonna give them a little, so that whole area is going to decrease. So, what I'm confused about is that you're saying that you're going from 7,500 to 10,000, but yet I'm hearing that it's decreasing.
So
let's
let us-
understand
the-
that.
The landlord's representative is here. Let's get into this.
Okay,
now.
we can get into it now, or if you,
Can you
whoever
put up the
has to.
survey? Do you have the survey? The subdivision plan or the subdivision plan or the survey? Shows the existing conditions.
So I think the question is that the lot is getting bigger.
Yes, you're saying it's getting bigger, but I'm hearing it's getting smaller.
The leased space is larger than the lot that we're creating. Even though we're creating a bigger lot, the leased area, and I'll let the landlord get into this, is expands beyond the increased lot size. So right now, they are using more area than even the proposed lot shows.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll talk about how this space is going to be reconfigured so that they get the same functional result from the increased lot size that they're getting.
Okay, we can do that with the next witness.
The landlord,
That's fine.
the landlord's representative should do that, because we're not purchasing, the applicant's not purchasing that lot.
Mhm.
That's being owned by the existing landlord, so.
Right, it just sounded like you'd said something and I just didn't understand it, how that works. So that's fine, we'll go with someone else. Are you finished with your testimony?
Yes.
Anyone, planning board members have any questions? Our professionals, any questions of this witness?
I just have one question, and we noted in our report, and I don't know whether it's an architectural item or an engineering item, but it relates to pedestrian warnings for the garages.
the applicant will provide them.
I think that was the only outstanding thing I had.
I'm sorry?
Site.
Okay.
Well, I was gonna bring that up, yeah, I do wanna get a staging plan from them for their construction. They provided one to the city before, but I wanna talk about it here, so we can discuss, because they went through a few iterations, and I wanna make sure we know exactly what you guys are going to do for staging.
We do have a staging plan that you submitted as part of.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'd like us to discuss that here if possible, so if you come back with that document.
Are you prepared to discuss that tonight, the staging plan?
I'm not.
Because obviously we would want to know, besides what our transportation director would like to know, we'd like to know, what streets are going to get closed, how long are they going to be closed, if they're going to be closed, those kind of things. It's a big concern to us.
I can address that for you.
Okay, so that's another day.
Spent quite a bit of time with your city on that.
Yeah, we discussed it a few
We'll
times.
present it to you also.
Okay, that'd be great.
One other thing is, was there discussion on mechanical equipment exterior and screening of it, meters?
There was,
Yes.
Dave testified to that, but we could redo that if you'd like.
Well,
The only one that missed it.
Dave talked about the HVAC, but what Jason's talking about are like transformers, gas.
Inside.
Meters.
There's not going to be anything visible on the outside.
Correct. Yep.
Oh, okay.
That was easy.
All right, any questions from the public of this witness? No? Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right. Okay, we have 20 minutes left of the evening. How would you like to spend those 20 minutes?
Let's get into Wonder Bar. I think it's an important issue
Okay.
we should address. I mean, obviously, we got to come back with some details for you.
Yes.
And some additional testimony on logistics.
And we can go over those that we have notes on, if you'd like, before we end.
Yeah, so let's.
But let's leave 5 minutes at the end for that.
Sure.
Okay.
And then we'll try to address this comment.
Please.
The Wonder Bar.
Good evening, everyone. For the record, my name is Jennifer Phillips Smith, and I'm an attorney with Gibbons PC. And I am here tonight on behalf of Asbury Partners. So what I'd like to do is just go over some of the legal documents that got us to this place, with the Wonder Bar being where it is and the lot size changing. If there's factual questions, we can bring up a business representative to address them. But a lot of it can be addressed just by talking about the redevelopment agreement and the subsequent development agreement and the leases that are in place. So, as I mentioned, I represent Asbury Partners. For this application, Asbury Partners is both the master developer under the waterfront redevelopment area and the redevelopment agreement, but we're also the owner of this property and the owner of the property that's leased to the Wonder Bar. So if you recall, before 2018, the redevelopment plan required block-by-block development and envisioned you take down an entire block, take all the structures off, start again with something new. And you see examples of that in Asbury Ocean Club and North Beach condos. In 2018, the waterfront redevelopment plan was amended to allow for less than block-by-block redevelopment. And that's what allows us to not take down the entire block and leave space for the Wonder Bar. So in the documents that were established for this particular project, there's a subsequent developer agreement that went to the city council. And in the subsequent developer agreement, it was made very clear that this project intended to keep the Wonder Bar. It did not intend to take down the whole lot, was not demolishing everything. The subsequent developer agreement made a few provisions specifically for the Wonder Bar, one of which was to require the subsequent developer to provide 10 parking spaces. So as you saw in the last, in the testimony that was just provided, that a good portion of the area that the Wonder Bar uses includes parking spaces, 10 or 11 spaces. The city council has required those to go into the building so that those spaces will now be within the structured parking. In creating this lot, we had a few options. The first, as I mentioned, redevelopment plan says you could take everything down. My client didn't see that as a viable option. My client wanted to keep the Wonder Bar and keep it operating. The second option was to not apply for a subdivision and to simply keep the Wonder Bar lot as the lot the building sits on. It's an independent tax lot, keep that lot as is. And then the Wonder Bar would lose all of its outdoor space. And the third plan, which is the one that came before you today, was to expand the existing lot line. No, it does not cover all of what is currently leased to the Wonder Bar, but it includes outdoor area that is not part of the existing Wonder Bar tax lot. So it's sort of meet in the middle. There is a lease agreement that was put into place on March 1st of 2008, where my client, Asbury Partners, leases what's now, we believe, known as lots 2 and 3, to the Wonder Bar. Actually, I should say specifically to Madison Asbury Retail. And then Madison Asbury Retail has whatever agreements they have in place that allow the Wonder Bar to operate. That lease specifically had a notice provision in it that allowed it to be terminated at any time that the lot was going to be redeveloped. So it was always intended to be a temporary lease. Temporary ended up being quite a long time after 2008, but the time has now come that we have an application here, that there's a subsequent developer agreement in place, and that my client's doing what they're supposed to be doing under the redevelopment agreement to bring the development to the site. So that's how we ended up with this lot. It's not wiping the whole block. It's not sticking with just the small lot that just encompasses the building. It's adding some of the outdoor space. I will represent that my client has sent notice to Madison Asbury Retail, and in that notice did offer the ability to help them reconfigure that side parcel to make it a better area to continue outdoor space and also to potentially activate the roof. But ultimately, they have not yet responded, and nor can we force Madison Asbury Retail as the tenant to respond. But we have indicated by letter that we are willing to work with them to do that. So hopefully that provides some of the legal background of how we ended up with this lot being carved out with the Wonder Bar and the Wonder Bar being able to remain in place.
So the area that normally is called for Yappy Hour will be smaller, but they can push it out if they can reconfigure?
There is a side area outside of the building that is part of what it was shown on the plans. So the building line ends there.
Right.
And then the parking lot, because the parking going in the building, we think that they can reconfigure that entire side yard. To put, will it be as large? No. But it will include outdoor space that could be configured.
Okay, so if they contact you, you're willing to work with them?
Correct.
To reconfigure this?
As the landlord of the space.
Okay, all right. Because this is, as you know, how popular the Yappy Hour is. So I just want to be sure that we have adequate space to do that, and that we've taken, so now it's in Madison's hands.
That's correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions from anyone on the planning board members? Our professionals? Our public? Okay, thank you. All right, we are 15 minutes down into the end of the meeting. May I suggest that we go over what has to come next time?
Right, so my list.
I'm sorry, and who else will be presenting?
Well, we're gonna figure out who should present the items that you want us to bring. Probably the architect.
But is there anybody else that we haven't heard yet?
No, we just completed our direct testimony tonight. However, we may want to bring somebody on the logistics plan.
Okay.
We'll decide that between now and the next meeting. So
that's fine.
I have a sample board of all the materials you want to see, so we can certainly bring that. I have the lighting plan for the roof lighting and all exterior lighting.
All exterior lighting, yes, and what it's going to look like.
Lighting that we have already.
Yes.
So that's the building mounted and site lighting. Prepare that plan for presentation and submission beforehand.
Right.
We intend to get that to your board professionals in time for them to have a review of it.
Absolutely.
Submit a letter to the board so that we can have a productive next public meeting.
And this is also to be able to see in the amenity space so that the building that's next door will not be interrupted there. So we have to see the amenity space, what kind of lighting we have there.
Right, I mean, we heard the
We're talking about everything.
We're not spilling onto the neighbors, in fact,
Everything.
negative.
Okay.
Just in addition to, and I'm going to make a suggestion, it may help the board's understanding of it as well. In addition to the technical drawings and the point by point, it may be worthwhile to do a nighttime rendering looking down to get a sense of what that might look like. I don't know if that helps the board,
Yes,
but
it
that's
does.
something that I might suggest both.
That's
So
the amenity space.
the amenity spaces, but also so you can see what's happening at the street level as well, but looking from above
Absolutely.
as well as from below.
Okay. Next one I had was detail of the garden wall between the site and the wonder bar. Site triangle compromise, I don't know if we need to do that for the next hearing, that's obviously in your bailiwick. And then the staging and logistics plan for construction. That's part of the redevelopment agreement, but we'll present that with testimony.
Right, we'd like to see that. Also, alternatives for the, I should say for the corner of 4th and Kingsley, for that one unit?
And 5th in Kingsley.
Was it
It's the
5th?
same.
Yeah, 4th and 5th.
It's the same on both
Yeah, it'll be the
sides.
same on either side.
So the corner floor units you want to see?
Yeah, the
is-
2 floor units.
Right. The concern being that it's very public in those corners and that space might
I
not
mean, my
be.
recommendation would just be to push it back and landscape just this first little piece. Just give them a little bit of screening, just done. And bump outs, make
Yeah.
sure just bump outs.
I would say, bump outs along 4th and 5th on the corners.
It's interesting because on the
No,
south
it should
side
be
of Kingsley,
fourth.
they already have bump
Yeah.
outs at 4th and 5th, so you could just mirror what's
Yeah,
there
yeah.
to create, like you would get the full situation.
Yeah.
That's right.
So they would be curbed and planted? Is that the idea, or they would be paved? What would be inside of those? What's necessary?
That's up to the city.
Yeah.
City space.
They're planted across the street, which is no reason they
And
can't
they
do
look
that.
fantastic.
Yeah, they're very nice.
I didn't think we were.
Yeah, but basically into 4th and 5th, not next to Kingsley.
We have a small protest going on.
Oh, do we? Okay, I can.
On the issue of bump outs, so the streetscape is in the master developer's purview per the redevelopment agreement. And our understanding is that that's not part of the infrastructure component report. So we actually can't do bump outs unless the council approves it. And I think years ago, we'd asked for bump outs and they were not permitted.
So as you started off, somebody started off the testimony. This is an old plan, it's got a lot of
Yeah.
dust on it, so maybe we wipe off some of the dust and do different things. So how you gotta do that, you have to get mayor and council approval to do bump outs, ask.
So maybe if we presented it to you, it would be subject to the council approving it.
No, but the question is, how do we do bump outs on just one corner when the other corners?
No, it's up on one corner.
I'm sorry?
5th Kingsley, 4th Kingsley.
I think they're asking about other blocks.
Right, the whole,
blocks.
right, because it's a comprehensive infrastructure
development.
component report. And we already,
You already did it with the Asbury Hotel, well, not you, sorry, but it was already done with the Asbury Hotel.
It was given permission,
Yeah,
yes.
it's already there across the street.
Yes, but
This would match that.
they asked for other blocks and the mayor and council said no at that time. Right.
yeah, I think what we're concerned about is just making sure we don't create an area that's not cohesive, right? So if, right now, we've been abiding by what's required in the infrastructure component report so that everything looks uniform. If we start having a situation where certain blocks are approved for bump outs and some are not approved for bump outs, you kind of get an uneven streetscape when the point is to have a uniform streetscape.
Are you familiar with that corner of Kingsley and 4th and 5th? Like, top of your head? Because there are bump outs there, I'm looking at them, you can mirror them, and that's, you're not.
I think you actually create
Yeah, you're
consistency
fixing the problem
in
you're
this
talking about
location.
creating.
Why don't you, excuse me, why don't you talk to your attorney quietly? Because you're not under oath, and the board can hear what you're saying. So if you're gonna talk, you should talk to your attorney quietly, unless you're under oath.
Right.
Please, that's all.
So I'll just answer the question. As far as what we don't want to have happen is for individual applications to be held up while we go back and look at the infrastructure component report. If it's a question that we need to work with the city on looking at the infrastructure component report, we'd like to just handle that separately. Because at the end of the day, it's not the subsequent developers who are doing the streetscapes, it's the master developer who has to do it. So even everything you heard today about street, the curbings and sidewalks and everything, the master developer does that. And it's our responsibility on this block because more than 50% of the block is being done. So we have to coordinate the master developer doing the infrastructure requirements.
Do it separately.
Yeah. But we're willing to have discussions on the infrastructure component report, just not as individual conditions of various planning board report, resolutions.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, I agree with them. I don't want to slow down this project either. So,
That's fine
I
with
mean,
me.
the worst thing we can do is slow down any project if it's something that's probably going to be worked out, but it's got to be worked out at a different venue.
Correct. And
We shouldn't be slowing down this because of that.
And we're happy to work with
It's something
Mayor.
like, I also think it will be worked out well before they start construction.
Right.
But they need approval to start construction and start pulling permits. So I think in between, the bump out problem has a good chance of being resolved.
Fine with me.
We're happy to work with the city.
Thank you.
And correct me if I'm wrong, anybody. I mean,
No, the streetscapes are installed last because if you do them first, they just get ruined during construction. So.
All right, you have everything? Unless anybody else have anything else that they would like to see next time? No?
Tom Lee, or is he still here? I think, just make sure Tom communicates with our office about plantings, that's the only other thing. I don't think that was mentioned. What's that? Well, we should talk and revise, yeah.
All right, so we need also our landscape architect to have discussions with our planners to make sure that we have the right choice of trees, bushes, etc. Anything else? Okay. All right, Ms. Marie, what's the date? What's the next date we have? That's available for a, okay. So it would be, that's okay. I don't have to, it's okay if I'm not here. I don't want to hold up this project because of me. All right, let's do it on the 7th.
August 7th.
August.
Yeah, that's the next available date. August 7th.
Special meeting available?
No.
why not? How can you just say no without asking?
We can, I mean, what?
Oh, wait, he's one of none.
Right.
How can you just say no without
No, no.
saying,
We can-
explain why?
We can certainly do, we'd have to poll the planning board, find out when they would be available to do a special meeting. But yeah, I mean, we can always try,
But we never just said no
but
to
we never,
anybody.
right, but we can always try.
I misspoke. Sure, we can find a date.
Thank you.
We have a lot of
We would have to
special
be noticed in that
meetings.
instance.
Yeah, because unless we put it, we find it right now.
Yeah, it's not
I can't
gonna
carry
be
it to the date
until,
and place.
I can tell you right now, it's probably not going to be until July. But we can try.
There are some issues we want to see, but, my sense is that we're a half hour kind of presentation on these.
It's still, that's still this, it's all this, no, it's the next slot that we have, because we give you an hour and a half slot, so it's like, that's how we do it. So we have 2 presentations a night, usually. This was an unusual time, that we were able to give you the full 3 hours, because we didn't have another application to give. So our timing is like an hour and a half per application, as normal. So even if it's like 15, 20 minutes, it's still the same thing. It's still, that's our next slot that's available, unless someone cancels, but then that may not help you because you've already noticed.
Yeah, so, can we carry it to the next meeting? And with the hope that somebody cancels, if they don't, then we carry it to the meeting after that. In the meantime, you can poll your board as to what date might be available for a special meeting. But at least it gives us the opportunity to be heard at the next meeting if somebody does cancel, because we won't have to have the notice problem.
I know you just confused the hell
No,
out of me.
I know what you mean.
That was like who's on first.
I know what you mean. Marie, can I see who the next 2 are? Just to see if we have a shot at all?
That's okay.
What's the next one? Well, what's our next one? Our next one is that, but that's a special.
That's a special.
That's a special, and they're not planning for
It's today. It's 3 weeks away.
that. Yeah, it's gotta be at
That
least
one,
down to here.
that
No,
one's
that
going, that's definitely gonna go.
Which one?
I mean, that's definitely gonna happen.
Which one?
1201.
That one? On both of these? Yeah, they're gonna
Okay.
need that. They're gonna need that.
Yeah.
So that's the 7th. No, well, I understand what you're saying is our next meeting is on the 5th of June. You're hoping that applicant, which is a large one,
Yeah.
I'm not saying it.
He's not really hoping they know.
I'm not saying it.
He's not really saying it. What he's saying is that,
Well, just as a matter of timing, the way the protocol for submission is 3 weeks, it's due today.
Right.
For 3 weeks from now to have any of the information.
Right, for the 5th, it's due today, so that's not within
So what's the
reason.
meeting after the 5th?
The 26th is the meeting afterwards.
And there's 2 applications.
And there's already 2 applications that day.
And they're not small applications.
Neither one of them is small.
So if you carry this to the 26th, understanding that we won't get heard unless it's a cancellation, that'll give us time to do the submission and also give you time to give us a special hearing date if available. And that we'll be able to react to both possibilities.
If it's only, if you understand that you will not be heard, it's okay. As far as I'm concerned.
well, yeah, it's fine. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's simple. Move it to that date. If there happens to be an opening, they'll be heard. If there isn't, we'll have to carry it, but in the interim, ask the board to talk about a special meeting date, assuming that they don't get heard on the 26th.
Right,
That saves
we will do it anyway. We will ask for a special meeting date
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
That's
What
exactly.
what about we go to the 17th?
Well, we
So
can,
if we carry-
the other option is for us to go to the 17th of July,
17.
which is something that we can give you.
That's quicker than August and probably quicker than a special date. Because by the time you get
Because
your
then we're gonna
professionals and our
hold-
professionals
but wait a second.
to decide on a date,
This one, there's a.
take the
there's a
July
date
17th and you're ahead of the
issue.
game.
Mayor, I
There's
think you're right. I
an
think
end date issue on that
if
one.
we could
They
Yeah.
have to be
fix
in
that
by a
tonight,
certain time.
let us know.
So he already
They
has
say it's
that
available.
slot.
They've got that slot and the
Right.
They say
second
it's
slot,
available.
so you should be able to
We
finish.
should be able to finish.
Yeah. And if anything.
But if they're
and
saying they're only
anything-
gonna be 15, 20 minutes, that gives them extra time.
Yeah, and if
What
anything.
do we have on the 17th?
It's
12:01.
12:01
Asbury.
Asbury redevelopment.
It's the big one.
All right, so how much time do you give them?
Well, they're also on the 26th, so this would be their second time.
So
Because we know that they're gonna need
you
to.
can squeeze out an hour.
I know, we're gonna, I think that we could say the 17th.
July
Yeah.
17th?
17th. July 17th, that gives you plenty of time to get the information to our professionals.
So July 17th, that means that they need everything in-house by June 26th,
Yep.
so they can get their reports to us.
And we'll try to do so.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay?
That saves a
Any
special
extension
meeting.
of
Yeah,
time
it saves us with a
needed
special
for
meeting.
Yes.
the board to decide
For
under
the
the MOU?
17th, sure.
Okay, to July 17th.
Saves us
Okay.
having a special meeting.
With that?
That's good. All right. Yeah, can I get a motion to move this application to July 17th without further notice?
2023.
2000, no,
Yes.
2023.
Yes.
Move it.
Second.
Who was second? Okay, got it.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All in favor?
You got to vote.
Aye.
Yeah.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Ayes have it.
And,
Thank you very much.
motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn? Yes. Move it.
All in favor?
Aye.